Immortal family cultivation. I am the reincarnation of a great ancestor. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 51, Four-Sided Soul-Locking Formation, Earth-Burning Fire Spirit Evil. Help. Yan Lingyu and the others looked at each other. The princess mansion was much more powerful than them, and there were many giant and cultivators. What could they help with? Seeing everyone's confusion, the middle-aged man standing behind King Hanner came out and answered for the little princess. In this cave, there is a formation that can isolate cultivators at the foundation building stage and above. I believe you all felt it when you entered. This formation is called the Four-Direction Soul-Locking Formation. It is a ground-level formation laid by the ancient secret sect Zhenming sect, and the core of the formation of the Four-Direction Soul-Locking Formation is a murderous aura, the earth-burning fire spiritual evil. Today, I asked you all to come here to seize the earth-burning fire spiritual evil for my princess mansion, Kinran explained steadily and slowly. However, the forces of several parties were all surprised. Zhenming sect? Murderous aura. Yan Lingyu had heard of this sect. This was an ancient sect, equivalent to the current Hengshui sect, Taiyai sect, Luohao Palace, etc. There were great masters of refining emptiness in the sect. However, the Zhenming sect was destroyed for some reason, and the inheritance also disappeared. Occasionally, there would be people favored by the heavens, who would get the relics of the sect and soar to the sky. Unexpectedly, this places the territory of this Zhenming sect at this point. The appearance of the strange formation is easy to understand. It is from the hands of this Zhenming sect, so it is not surprising that the formation is so magical. The evil spirit is a magical substance naturally generated between heaven and earth. It can be used in many aspects for cultivators. The most important point is that the evil spirit is an indispensable material for cultivators to break through the golden elixir. It can be said that the quality of the evil spirit determines the geometry of the elixir, determines whether the future mana is strong, and determines the combat level of the golden elixir cultivator. The level of evil spirit is also divided into heaven and earth, and the quality of the golden elixir is divided into 10 levels, 9 turns and flawless. On the Zuanai continent, flawless golden elixir is too rare, and those who can have 9 turns of golden elixir are already dragons and phoenixes among people. According to records, the earth-burning fire spirit is a mid-grade earth-level evil spirit. If you use it to break through the golden elixir, it will be at least 7 turns. Yan Lingyu closed his eyes slightly, thinking. The earth-burning fire spirit was a fire-attributed evil spirit, which was useless to him. If he helped the little princess get it, he wouldn't lose much. It all depended on how much the other party could offer as a reward, and whether the matter was risky. Little princess, how can we help you? At this time, Lin Zixin had been released, and bruises could be seen on his skin. The Hengshui inlay had done him a lot of damage. Kinran heard the inquiry and continued to answer. After the deduction of the formation master and the county government, a method to crack the four-sided soul-locking formation has been found. To break this formation, you must first break its 4 formations, and these 4 formations are guarded by a phantom of a divine beast. Although the 4 divine beasts are guarding the 4 formations, their overall strength remains unchanged. That is, when attacking one formation alone, it will be suppressed by the 4 divine beasts, and if you attack all 4 formations at the same time, each formation will only be threatened by 1 divine beast, which greatly disperses the power of the divine beasts. At the same time, if one divine beast phantom is destroyed, the other ones will be affected and their strength will be weakened. But even if the power of the divine beast is divided into 4 parts, it is not something that ordinary key training cultivators can resist. So we have found the top-level existences in each key training to assist in breaking the formation. When the other party said this, Yan Lingyu roughly understood the situation. This 4-sided soul-locking formation cannot be entered by those who have established their foundation or above. Only key practitioners can enter. However, the general key practitioners are not strong enough to defeat the phantom of the divine beast. They can only find the best among the key practitioners, but there are not many such people in the princess's mansion. So they thought of asking for help from outside. Everyone was silent. You looked at me, I looked at you, and no one responded. Kinran saw that everyone neither refused nor agreed. He knew what they were thinking, so he continued, I will not treat you unfairly if I ask you for help. In this incident, Whoever kills the phantom of the divine beast first can get this spiritual vein, and the rest can also get a mid-grade spiritual weapon and a Zhuan-level top-grade Taoist technique. Oh, after this was said, it was obvious that someone was interested. Only the 3 people from the Yan family looked a little ugly. Suddenly, a gentle voice sounded, and the little princess raised her head and said, "Since the Yan family won the previous fight, this spiritual vein should belong to the Yan family. Whoever kills the phantom of the divine beast first and reduces the burden on other positions, the princess mansion can give another mysterious evil spirit," Qin Hainer said, while looking at Yan Lingyu intentionally or unintentionally. The latter put his fist and thanked, "Thank you, little princess, for your help." At this time, Yan Lingyu suddenly felt that this seemingly arrogant little girl was a good person. Then, Yan Lingyu's expression moved, and a mechanical sound sounded in his heart. Sui's Chunqiu system judgment. A new spiritual vein has been obtained for the family. Host Yan Lingyu. The rating has reached C+. Accumulated rewards. Rapid recovery of cultivation natural sword body. Next rating increases the reward. Artifact embryo. Host, please keep up the good work. Yan Lingyu was surprised. It turned out that he could see the rating of this life and the reward of the next life. This is a good thing. It gives him a direction to work hard. Suppressing his thoughts, he prepared to deal with the affairs in front of him first. The rewards given by the Princess Mansion are very generous, and each one is very important to force, especially the evil spirit. Maybe someone will break through the giant because of it. Yan Lingyu, Hai Chonggang, and Lin Zixin all have the potential to become giant cultivators. Little princess, why do you think we are strong enough? Lin Zixin asked with some curiosity. Of course, he said this mainly to attract Qin Hainer's attention and take a closer look at her beautiful face. We were not sure at the beginning, Qin Hainer said lightly, so we didn't reveal the information completely, but let you fight without knowing each other, just as a test. The result is not bad, everyone's skills are really amazing, and there is no false reputation. What? You mean, you were there when we fought before? Hai Chonggang was shocked. Almost. Yan Lingyu was also shocked. The previous battle was so noisy, especially the Hai family's shocking waves technique, which almost submerged the entire cave. However, even so, they did not find that the young princess and the other 2 were right next to them. Their ability to hide is so terrifying. A trace of fear and admiration flashed in Hai Chonggang's eyes, and he secretly said, "You are worthy of being the young princess of Xiaonan County." What I saw today made me see a lot more clearly. As expected, there are people who are better than you. In fact, he was unwilling to lose to Yan Lingyu. In a real one-on-one fight, he still felt that he had a greater chance of winning, but Qin Hainer's strength was a bit too exaggerated. Lin Zixin on the side was even more sad. There are many monsters outside. I want to go home. Regardless of the changes in the minds of several people, Qin Hainer glanced at Qin Ran lightly. The latter understood, took out 3 small bottles, and sent them to the 3 parties, saying, "This is the Zhuan-level elixir Zhuan Bodhi pill, which can quickly restore your mana. 1 bottle for 1 pill." Qin Ran continued, "Remind, only one person can enter a formation at a time. If multiple people enter at the same time, a rejection reaction will occur." Several people nodded, took the pills, and quickly swallowed them, meditating to recuperate their true ki. Yan Lingyu, who closed his eyes and meditated, raised his eyebrows. Because of the previous fierce battle and the huge medicinal power of the Zhuan-level elixir, his cultivation was loose. After thinking about it, Yan Lingyu decided to break through the 9th level of ki training. Hai Chonggang. Lin Zixin. Qin Hainer. As if they noticed the abnormality of the surrounding spiritual energy, several people turned their heads suddenly and looked at Yan Lingyu in horror. Chapter 52 Breakthrough, Task Assignment. In the cave, the spiritual energy suddenly became violent. Visible strands of spiritual energy were gathering and then rushing to the same place. Those present were all geniuses from various forces, so they naturally discovered this change at the first time. They looked for the source, and it turned out that Yan Lingyu was like a whale sucking water, constantly absorbing the surrounding spiritual energy into his body. With such a movement, there was only one possibility, that is, he was undergoing a breakthrough in his cultivation. In this 4-sided soul-locking formation, to break through the foundation is to seek death, so Yan Lingyu could not be breaking through the foundation. Then, there was only one possibility, that he was breaking through a small stage under the ki training cultivation. Brother Yan, I'm presumptuous to ask, isn't this Yan Lingyu originally at the 9th level of key training? Hai Chongyang had a vague guess, and he asked Yan Lingxiang, who was also paying attention to Yan Lingyu. Yan Lingxiang answered naively, right, Lao Jiayu was at the 8th level of key training before, and now he is about to break through to the 9th level. Although he had a premonition that the truth was like this, Hai Chongyang still broke out in a cold sweat when the Yan family admitted it in person. He murmured in defeat, where did this freak come from? It turns out that he had been challenging me before, and I was so arrogant that I thought I was not inferior to him, because Yan Lingyu practiced the Zhuangxi Shumianju, his true ki was too strong, even surpassing the 9th level of ki training. Therefore, Hai Chongyang thought that the other party was also at the 9th level of ki training. While he was thinking, the spiritual energy around him flowed faster. Yan Lingyu was like a bottomless vortex, absorbing all spiritual energy without restraint. At this time, his Hengshui spiritual body and spiritual body source flow were open to the maximum, and he could deeply feel that he was getting stronger and stronger. Although the few of them had friction before, they still disdained to interrupt others' paths. What kind of skills does this guy practice? Why is there so much noise? If you don't know, you would think he is building his foundation. Lin Zixin, who was standing aside, was also shocked and sighed secretly. Yan Lingyu is one level lower than me and he can restrain me so much? Now that he is at the same level as me and whose strength has become stronger, doesn't it mean that I don't even have the qualifications to look at him? The master of body refining of Kangtong sect had a bitter face at this moment. He secretly sent a message to the other two fellow disciples and ordered, go back and explain it clearly to all the brothers and sisters. Don't go to Yingzhou when you go out to explore in the future. Otherwise, if you are beaten by this guy, I will not help them get back at you. Yes, the fellow disciples of Kangtong sect nodded like pounding garlic. They had seen Lin Zixin's miserable condition before, so they naturally would not seek punishment for themselves. They would definitely avoid this monster in the future. No, why is this guy still sucking? Suddenly, Hai Chongyang screamed strangely, with a hint of jealousy in his tone. When breaking through, the longer you absorb spiritual energy, the more your mana will increase. Now, an incense stick has passed, and their mana has fully recovered. But Yan Lingyu hasn't finished yet. When Hai Chongyang himself broke through from the 8th level to the 9th level, it took him only a quarter of an hour to absorb it. At that time, he still felt that he was gifted, and even if he couldn't compare to the core disciples of the upper sects, he could still compete in Xiaonan County. But he didn't expect that Yan Lingyu spent several times more time than him. This made Hai Chongyang lose confidence. Qin Hainer, who was far away, also noticed the situation here. She frowned and raised her eyebrows slightly, and said to Qin Ran beside her, Uncle Ran, do you know what kind of martial arts Yan Lingyu is practicing? It stands to reason that he can use Renshu Yinli, so he should be practicing Zhuangxi Shumianju, but judging from his overflowing true energy, it is not the case. Qin Ran thought deeply for a while, shook his head and said, I can't tell. The characteristic of this kid's true energy is that it has no characteristics. He doesn't look like a cultivator. Maybe this person has some adventure. Oh, so, Qin Hainer's eyes blinked, and she became very interested in Yan Lingyu. She still remembered Yan Lingyu's frown before. From this frown, Qin Hainer felt that the other party didn't like her. This was the first time she encountered such a situation. In the princess's mansion, because the princess had a daughter in her old age, she was afraid that her daughter would be wronged, so she almost gave her the best care. The servants in the mansion also loved her very much and never showed any negative emotions to her. Interesting, she kept her eyes on Yan Lingyu and waited quietly for him to finish. Gradually, the agitated spiritual energy around him calmed down. Yan Lingyu slowly opened his eyes, only to see a bunch of people staring at him, which scared him. Fortunately, he was also a thick-skinned man, so he stood up, smoothed his Taoist robe, and swept away the dust. Brother Yan, how much progress have you made? Hai Chongyang was a little curious. Yan Lingyu glanced at him and said lightly, the magic power has increased by 50%. 50%. Lin Zixin's eyes were as big as cowbells, and he said in disbelief. Huh? Yan Lingyu was a little confused. In order to worry that he would appear too evil, he deliberately said 20% less. Why did they still react so strongly? Shaking his head, he looked at the little princess, clasped his fists to express his gratitude and apology. Everyone waited for him to break through, and it took too long. Yan Lingyu beside him was relieved to see that his breakthrough was complete. Seeing everything, Yan Lingyu laughed secretly. If these guys knew that old Nine was not only a powerful cultivator, but also a master of alchemy, I think these so-called geniuses would be so shocked that they would have demons in their hearts. Sometimes, Yan Lingyu also felt that his ninth brother was a freak, but he was too carefree and would not be shocked. After the matter was over, Qin Hainer looked at Qin Ran and said softly, "Uncle Ran, start." Qin Ran nodded, and then took out a formation plate under the curious eyes of everyone. This middle-aged man was also a master of formation. Qin Ran's eyes condensed slightly, and he cast several spells on the formation plate in his hand. Then, the whole cave began to shake violently, and strange inscriptions appeared on the ground, emitting dazzling blue light. While Qin Ran was activating the formation, Qin Hainer added, "The four-sided soul-locking formation is divided into 4 images: azure dragon, white tiger, vermilion bird, and black tortoise. Among them, the azure dragon's phantom is the strongest, but you don't have to worry, I will take care of the azure dragon. You just need to quickly solve the other formations, okay?" The faces of several people became solemn. Yan Lingyu looked at the 2 clansmen and said, "Fourth uncle and fourth brother, there may be danger here later, you better leave first." "You are right, we just happened to go to the Dakian officials to register, and by the way, inform the clan elders of the development of the incident," Yan Yinglian responded. They couldn't help with breaking the formation later, and staying here would distract Yan Lingyu. So, he took Yan Lingyu away. In addition to the 2 of them, the people of the Hai family and Kongtong sect also left the cave together. Looking back, Qin Ran had already arranged the formation. For a while, the formation disc in his hand kept spinning, and a similar huge disc phantom appeared under everyone's feet. Crack! With a loud noise, Yan Lingyu felt herself falling into the abyss, her body weightless, and her vision became extremely dark. It was not until a long time later that she saw a glimmer of light. Chapter 53, Separate Actions, Shadow of the Divine Beast. The eyes of Yan Lingyu and the others were filled with light again. Looking at the surrounding environment, it turned out that this inexplicable cave actually had another layer, and the formation of the 4-sided soul-locking array was at the bottom layer. At this time, Yan Lingyu and the others were at the center of a crossroads, surrounded by the flowing light phantoms brought by the formation. The road led to the endless abyss, and the roar of the beasts could be heard faintly. "Let's act separately," Qin Hainer said softly, and then found a direction and walked over. The remaining few people looked at each other and each found a way to set off. Soon, Qin Ran was the only one at the crossroads. He was a master of formations, and the formation plate in his hand was designed by a formation master specifically for the 4-sided soul-locking array, and it was also a treasure of the spiritual weapon level. Qin Ran's forehead was sweating and his lips were pale. Even with the help of the spiritual weapon formation plate, he still had some difficulty in resisting the spiritual pressure of the 4-sided soul-locking array. In fact, he was the most important one among the 5 people on this trip. If Qin Ran makes a mistake and cannot support the array will go out of control, and what will happen to Yan Lingyu and the other 3 who are deep inside it is completely up to fate. After all, even if the 4-sided soul-locking array has been abandoned for thousands of years, it is still a ground-level array. It is still too difficult to shake it with a body that practices Qi. Take 2 pills to calm the true Qi in your body. Qin Ran gritted his teeth, his eyes showed determination, and at the same time, he continued to infuse magic power into the array to maintain its stability. At the same time, Yan Lingyu, who had just entered the tunnel, seemed to have noticed something. He suddenly looked back and confirmed that there was nothing unusual, and continued to walk towards his destination. At the end of a long and dim tunnel, there was another cave of unknown depth. Yan Lingyu took a deep breath, holding the magic sword in his hand, and at the same time protecting the Haoyud and Kongjin in front of him. He wanted to use the detection function of the spiritual mirror to see through the reality in front, but he could only feel that there was another world in the cave. With a little luck, Yan Lingyu walked into the cave in front of him. The moment he stepped into the cave, the first thing he felt was the glare of the sun. He was not in the outside world. According to the changes in the surrounding spiritual energy, he had entered an independent small world. The scope of this small world was not large, but the scenery in it was very familiar, just like Qianshiling. In the center of the world was a small hill that was not in Qianshiling. Yan Lingyu's eyes fixed and found that it was more like a huge turtleback than a hill. Moving his vision downward, he suddenly found a pair of dark green eyes staring at him. On the other side, Hai Chongyang also entered a new world. The same scenery of Keshilling made him suspect that he was trapped in an illusion. In a trance, a strong sense of crisis came over him. Hai Chongyang felt that he was being stared at by a fierce beast, his hair stood up, and his body was slightly stiff. As soon as he found that something was wrong, he immediately activated the possession of the Hades general and used it to drive the white whale Sea King halberd in his hand. Roar! With a roar, a snow-white figure as tall as a building suddenly appeared. Before Hai Chongyang could react, he saw a huge tiger claw in front of him. In an instant, he was so scared that he quickly protected his spiritual weapon in front of him. At the same time, water vapor surged around him, spraying waves, trying his best to block the sudden attack. Boom! Feeling a huge force coming from the white whale Sea King halberd, Hai Chongyang flew backwards, and for a moment, his whole body was numb. So fierce, he was horrified. At this time, he had recognized the opponent. This was a big tiger with snow-white body and black stripes. The tiger's eyes were blood red, revealing a sharp and fierce light. The tiger's mouth was slightly open, and the tiger's teeth as big as a human thigh were chilling. This was the mythical beast White Tiger. In just a moment of fighting, Hai Chongyang knew that his strength was inferior to that of the mythical beast. But he was so embarrassed because he was ambushed before. Now that the opponent was exposed, he still had a chance. When the two sides fight, the victory or defeat does not only depend on the specific strength of both sides, but also strategy is also a key factor in winning. In Hai Chongyang's opinion, if the real body of the mythical beast White Tiger came, he could choose a Hengshui treasure land and wait quietly. But the opponent was just a phantom of the mythical beast created by the formation. HMPH, let me show you how powerful I am, Master Hai Chongyang shouted, and his whole body was shining with yellow light. He waved the Sea King halberd in his hand, and the phantom of the white whale, which was even larger than the white tiger, jumped out. Not only that, just in case, he also activated the technique of raging waves, and the rolling waves constantly squeezed the white tiger's dodge space, and could also amplify his own phantom of the white whale. At the same time, Hai Chongyang also used a concealed method to swing out several soul-refining nails, shooting them at the opponent's vital parts. This kind of magic is the most restraining against such illusory things. Seeing the collision between the white whale and the white tiger, the phantom of the white tiger was already in danger. As long as the soul-repressing nails arrived, it would be severely injured. Seeing victory in sight, Hai Chongyang's expression changed drastically in the next second. The white tiger's shadow was pierced through, like a bubble, and turned into stars. With its cover, a much smaller white tiger has arrived in front of Hai Chongyang. This white tiger is more spiritual, with cunning and mockery in its eyes. At this moment, Hai Chongyang knew that he had been fooled. The wisdom of this shadow was not that of a human. If he neglected it this time, he would face endless attacks. Hai Chongyang could only bite the bullet and resist, falling into a disadvantageous position that was difficult to recover. Fortunately, he was agile, otherwise he would be in danger of death. This time, I can only hope that others can help weaken this guy. In the current situation, it is difficult for Hai Chongyang to break the formation. And Lin Zixin of Kongtong sect is not much better. He is facing the shadow of the mythical beast Suzaku. Suzaku can fly. And Lin Zixin can only stare blankly on the ground, threatening the opponent. Fortunately, he has thick skin and can withstand the tossing. Ouch! Suddenly, Lin Zixin screamed. A deep blue flame ignited on his body, the Suzaku divine fire. This flame was extremely strange, and it could not be extinguished no matter how hard you tried, burning the indestructible body of the diamond. At the same time, Lin Zixin felt an extreme burning sensation, wandering around his body, and tending to invade his body. He was horrified, knowing that Suzaku was serious. The opponent had time to release a powerful big move in the void. The former was difficult to resist. At this moment, Lin Zixin wanted to withdraw, but found that he could not find the way back. He was trapped here and was forced to continue fighting with Suzaku. Feeling his physical strength was constantly decreasing, he cried out, "This Suzaku is too fierce, someone come to help weaken it." In the current situation, Lin Zixin can only hope that someone can destroy one of the positions first. The phantoms of the four great beasts are actually one. If one is destroyed, the strength of the other three will be weakened. With his mind flowing, he transferred all his magic power to the Jiao to attach to his body, and dodged another attack from Suzaku in a panic. Unlike the others who were surrounded by danger, Yan Lingyu seemed to be strolling leisurely. He even climbed onto the back of the black tortoise. Chapter 54, Turtleback Inscription, Removal of the Formation. In the small world, Yan Lingyu saw the huge Xuanwu, and Xuanwu also discovered this outsider. In an instant, the ground shook, trees were destroyed and rivers were broken. Xuanwu's mountain-like body moved vigorously and rushed towards Yan Lingyu with great momentum. The latter's expression did not change, and his magic power flowed. Hengshui inlay overflowed from his body and quickly accumulated and flowed, as if building a bridge. Yan Lingyu took 8 steps of Shuiao Xingchen and also went up to the Xuanwu beast. He decided to fight quickly. However, to his surprise, the huge body suddenly stopped after approaching him less than a mile away. Then, he saw Xuanwu's forelegs spread out and fell to the ground, shaking up clouds of dust. The opponent's actions made Yan Lingyu full of doubts. He suspected that there was a trick, and he immediately chose to distance himself, step back and waited, and sacrificed the Heiaoyu and Kongjian to be alert to the surroundings. A few breaths passed, and everything was calm. What's going on? Yan Lingyu was stunned and thought to himself. He tried to approach the black tortoise phantom carefully, but the other party still did not respond, as if it was asleep. It was not until he came to the other party that something strange happened. The black tortoise's green eyes, which were as big as millstones, looked at Yan Lingyu lazily, and then it made an extremely dull sound, which made the latter's eardrums hurt. Human, complete your task quickly. It was like the sound of heaven and earth, echoing in Yan Lingyu's mind. He raised his eyebrows and thought to himself, this black tortoise phantom actually has independent consciousness. What does it mean by this? Does it want me to kill it and destroy this position? Why does it do this? There are constant doubts in my heart. Since the other party can speak, Yan Lingyu decided to ask clearly. He said, Senior, aren't you the divine beast guarding the formation? Why don't you fulfill your responsibility? After he finished speaking, Xuanwu glanced at him and said in a muffled voice, Nothing, it's just that my phantom can't beat you. Anyway, the ending is the same, so I'm too lazy to do it. Yan Lingyu was surprised that this was the reason. In fact, he didn't know how strong he is now. Although Yan Lingyu has memories of his previous life, and he was a cultivator in the middle stage of foundation building in his previous life. But at that time, he was too mediocre, just one of the common people. Especially when he was in the key training stage in his previous life, it was even worse. At that time, he dared to stay away from the geniuses like Hai Chongyang and Lin Zixin, unlike now when he can beat them one-on-one. Yan Lingyu can be sure that at this moment, he can at least beat 10 Yanpings at the 9th level of key training. Yanping in his previous life was too ordinary to come into contact with geniuses, and he didn't know how strong geniuses are at each stage. So, maybe Yan Lingyu has become the first person in Xiaonan County to build a foundation, but he still humbly thinks that he is just an ordinary genius, and he firmly believes that there are people who are better than people. After thinking for a while, Yan Lingyu asked curiously, Senior, how strong do you think I am? After a long silence, Xuanwu replied, I don't know, you are just a key cultivator. My original body was born with a golden core cultivation. I don't know what level you are. I only know that my shadow is not your opponent. Well, I have been here for so long, and I have seen countless key cultivators. You can rank in the top 3, Xuanwu's shadow thought for a while and said again. After hearing this, Yan Lingyu was also a little happy. It turned out that he had come to this point unknowingly. For a moment, a great ambition rose in his heart. Then, Yan Lingyu's expression became serious. He clasped his fists and saluted, saying respectfully, Senior Xuanwu, I came here this time to destroy the formation of the four-sided soul-locking array, so I need to destroy your phantom. I'm sorry, Yak, the phantom of Xuanwu replied indifferently, and then stopped moving. Seeing this situation, Yan Lingyu suddenly felt a little tricky. This phantom of Xuanwu is so huge, and it's still lying down. Where should he start? He can't just chop off its head. If the two sides have fought before, Yan Lingyu won't have much burden even if he cuts off its head. But now that Xuanwu has answered many of his questions, it would be a bit disrespectful to really chop off its head. After thinking about it, Yan Lingyu decided to find another weak point to start with. He began to wander around Xuanwu's body. Suddenly, Yan Lingyu found something strange. When he came to the top of Xuanwu's turtle back, there was a stone tablet standing there. It was unknown what the stone tablet was made of, but it made people feel that it was extremely hard. And there was an inscription engraved on this stone tablet. Yan Lingyu was immediately attracted by the inscription and stared at it intently. It was unknown how long it took until the inscription was completely imprinted in his mind before he came back to his senses. 4 big words naturally emerged in his mind: Shui Xin Dao Yin. Yan Lingyu turned back to Xuanwu and asked humbly, "Senior Xuanwu, do you know what the inscription on your back is?" This time, the phantom of Xuanwu didn't even open his eyes, and even answered with a voice transmission, "It cannot be said." The 3 words suddenly appeared in Yan Lingyu's mind. Before he could understand the meaning, the phantom of Xuanwu seemed to be a little impatient and said, "This phantom has nothing to do with my body. You don't have to feel psychologically burdened. I have been sealed here by this Hanming sect for thousands of years, and I am tired of it." "Then I am rude." Yan Lingyu understood the meaning and said respectfully. He didn't have time to delay. He had to complete the first kill quickly and get the evil spirit reward given by the princess mansion. If he was late, it might be taken by someone else. If I can make this phantom lose the desire to fight, I think the other people should not be unbearable either. Time is still precious. Thinking of this, Yan Lingyu made up his mind and used the Hengshui Yinlei to wrap the magic sword and cut into the neck of Xuanwu. After another landslide, the huge phantom of Xuanwu turned into stars. At the same time, the surrounding environment also changed, like a thin curtain falling off, revealing its original appearance. Yan Lingyu returned to a dark cave. He sank into the sea of consciousness, where he had just branded the inscription Shuxin Dao Ian. Although he didn't know what the inscription was used for, his intuition told him that this thing was definitely not ordinary. At the same time, Yan Lingyu's mind was filled with thoughts. What is this 4-sided soul-locking formation used for? The Ming sect was originally a major sect in the Central Plains, so why did it come to the remote Cheonan County far away from the center of Dekian to set up such a large formation? There are too many doubts that Yan Lingyu can't solve. Looking inward at a mysterious inscription, Yan Lingyu suddenly thought, in addition to the inscription on the black tortoise phantom, would the other mythical beasts also have inscriptions? Thinking carefully, this is very likely. If so, he can collect all 4 marks. He should be able to gain huge benefits. However, when multiple people enter a formation, there will be rejection, and Yan Lingyu is not ready to rush in. It is important to be content. Letting go of his obsession, Yan Lingyu decided to wait for the others to complete their tasks while trying to figure out the Shui Xin Dao seal. If other people also get the inscription, they can use it to exchange. Thanks to Yun Kai Yu Ming, Jing'er Feng, Shu Xiao Sheng, Xiu Xian Dang Wan Sui, Bao Feng Lang O, and several readers for their monthly tickets. Your support is the driving force of my writing. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 55, Shui Xin Dao Yin, Qinran's Request. In the waves manifested by the stormy waves technique, Hai Chongyang was like a fish swimming in the water, moving quickly through it while hiding himself well. Outside the waves, there was a majestic white tiger phantom staring at him. Suddenly, Hai Chongyang was surprised to find that the light on the white tiger phantom had dimmed, and its momentum was obviously weakened. He understood that one of his positions had been destroyed. Is it the little princess? Or Yan Lingyu? He muttered in his heart, and Lin Zixin was naturally excluded. Unconsciously, Hai Chongyang had already placed Yan Lingyu in a position higher than him. When he realized this, Hai Chongyang felt helpless and a little discouraged. It's probably Yan Lingyu. After all, the young princess is dealing with the strongest azure dragon, and the former has broken through the 9th level of key training, and his strength has increased by 50%. Even if he exaggerated, it is already quite good. If I can increase my strength by 50%, killing this white tiger will be as easy as cutting melons and vegetables. Thinking of this, Hai Chongyang took a pill, put his hands together, and circulated the remaining true energy in his body. He was ready to counterattack. On the other side, Lin Zixin, who has an indestructible spirit body, was in a sea of fire. His clothes were almost burned to ashes, his face was burned, and he looked a little embarrassed. The vermilion bird's flame has changed, another blaze hid him, and he was surprised to find that the opponent's attack had weakened. At the same time, he began to look up at the sky. The divine beast vermilion bird at this time was obviously a little dimmer than before. At this point, Lin Zixin didn't know what happened. One of the positions was broken, and the overall strength of the divine beast phantom was greatly reduced. Brother Yan, you are my brother. With a fixed gaze, Lin Zixin knew that the time for his counterattack had come. Roar, he roared like a wild beast, venting the gloom in his heart. Since he came down the mountain, he was first beaten by Yan Lingyu, and then bombarded by Zhuge endlessly. He had been suppressing a ball of evil fire in his heart for a long time, wanting to vent. Lin Zixin bent his legs, his muscles grew twice as big as before, and his whole body was shining with golden light. In an instant, he was like a cannon that shot up into the sky. A fist as big as a sandbag blasted towards the phantom of Zhuge. In the deep cave, Yan Lingyu sat on the ground, and his chest radiated a blue light, beating like a pulse. Looking for its root, it is a character composed of water and heart. But this is the water heart Taoist seal that has just been imprinted on the back of the turtle. Yan Lingyu pondered for a long time before he could use his true energy to materialize this Taoist seal. It is equivalent to this Taoist art of unknown level, and he has already entered the door. Shuxin Daoyan, Zhanming sect, Yan Lingyu muttered to himself. He had already felt the power of Shuxin Daoyan, which was a high-level Dao technique that was not inferior to Hengshui Yinli. Similarly, Shuxin Daoyan could also be amplified by Hengshui spiritual body and spiritual body source. Yan Lingyu stretched out his hand and pushed forward, and the Daoyan condensed on his chest slowly floated forward. The speed of Shuxin Daoyan was not fast, but this small Daoyan, which was not even the size of a palm, contained incomparable power. Just condensing this Daoyan almost consumed 40% of Yan Lingyu's mana. You know, Yan Lingyu's true ki is now as strong as that of a cultivator who has just entered the foundation building stage. After floating out a few feet, Shuxin Daoyan stopped moving, and then it began to tremble violently, and triggered waves of ripples in the void, as if a light object fell into a pool. Wherever the ripples passed, they also continued to vibrate, making the space blurred. These are only part of the power of the Water Heart Dao Seal. If you want to find out its true power, you need to practice with a live target. With a firm mind, Yan Lingyu tried out the new Taoist technique and was very satisfied with it. Then, he took back the Water Heart Dao Seal floating outside. That's right, take it back. As long as this seal is not destroyed or the spiritual energy contained in it is completely consumed, it can always exist between heaven and earth, and can be taken back into the body to continue nourishing. And with the breadth and depth of Yan Lingyu's sea of consciousness, he can nourish 3 Water Heart Dao Seals at a time. The Water Heart Dao Seal is like a formation. Zhanming sect, obviously, this Water Heart Dao Seal is the work of Zhanming sect, and it is a new path opened up by it in the formation. I can only admire it. At this point, after taking a nourishing pill, Yan Lingyu stood up and went back in the direction he came from. He estimated that the other people should have completed their tasks. Sure enough, when Yan Lingyu returned to the original intersection, Lin Zixin and Hai Chongyang also appeared one after another. The latter two looked relaxed and smiling. Seeing this, Yan Lingyu raised her eyebrows and said, "Brother Lin, Brother Hai, have you gained anything? How about sharing it with each other? Gain. Does the tragic experience in life count?" Lin Zixin's smile became a little stiff. Yan Lingyu was a little confused. It turned out that seeing the two smiling faces, Yan Lingyu thought that they also obtained the inscription on the back of the beast. Then she asked and learned that the two did not pay attention to the back of the beast at all. It is also true that Lin Hai and the others were suppressed at the beginning, so how could they have the time to care about these things? They looked very satisfied, just because they completed the task and received a high reward from the princess mansion. Yan Lingyu closed her mouth and suppressed the exchange of the Water Heart Dao Seal in her heart. If these two knew that the biggest gain of this trip was this seal, and they were unaware of it, I think their Dao hearts would be broken. By the way, hasn't the little princess come out yet? Looking around, Lin Zixin suddenly asked curiously. Among the three, he was the one who cared the most about Kinhainer. Could it be that the young princess has not yet solved the Azure Dragon Phantom? After all, the Azure Dragon formation is the strongest, and it should be more difficult to deal with. Hai Chongyang said after thinking for a while. Impossible, the Suzaku beast I faced was obviously weakened 3 times, so at that time, the 3 formations should have been completely destroyed. At this point, several people looked at each other, and then looked at Kinran behind them at the same time. At this time, Kinran's face was pale, his pupils were dilated, his lips were purple, his body was shaky. And his hands that were protecting the formation plate were shaking constantly, and his sweat soaked his long gown. A voice transmission sounded in everyone's mind. The young princess is absorbing the earth-burning fire spirit evil. It will take some time. Everyone can go back to the outside world and wait. Then, Kinran operated the formation plate and opened up a virtual road leading to the cave above. Yan Lingyu and the other 2 thought about it and understood that the purpose of the young princess's trip was the earth-burning fire spirit evil, and perhaps it also involved some secrets of the princess's mansion, so they had better leave first. So, after nodding to Kinran, the 3 of them walked up one after another. Halfway through, Yan Lingyu, who was at the end, suddenly stopped and looked behind him suspiciously. Just now, he received a voice transmission from Kinran. Yan Lingyu, can you do me a favor? After a slight pause, Yan Lingyu asked, what favor? Kinran. At this time, Lin Zixin and Hai Chongyang had already walked to the entrance of the cave. However, they did not notice that Yan Lingyu, who was following them, had disappeared. Watching the surrounding changes, the road disappearing, and Yan Lingyu returning to the formation, frowned, and a bad premonition arose in his heart. Puff, Kinran suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood. Please save the little princess. Chapter 56, Space-Time Gap, Forced to Enter. Please save the little princess. After Kinran said this, he almost fell down due to weakness. Yan Lingyu did not step forward to help him, and even stepped back a little, with a serious expression. Now he did not understand the situation, and was worried that the other party would be attacked by the formation. Looking at his miserable appearance, he looked like a dying person. If he rashly stepped forward, who knows what would happen? Yan Lingyu asked, fellow Taoist Qin, what happened? He decided to find out the situation. If he could save the little princess, it would be great. He could establish a relationship with the princess's mansion, and the Yan family's development in Cheonan County should not be hindered in the future. But if the situation was critical, he might even have to sacrifice his own life, so he could only give up the rescue. Kinran saw that Yan Lingyu was very defensive. If he didn't tell the truth, the other party would definitely not help. He smiled bitterly in his heart. At this time, he was exhausted and couldn't speak. He could only choose to transmit his voice. As mentioned before, there are 4 formations in the 4-sided soul locking array. After destroying these 4 formations, the original Azure Dragon formation will change and become the formation center of the entire 4-sided soul locking array, and the evil spirit is in this formation center. Yan Lingyu heard it carefully, and the idea of helping in his heart was reduced again. If King Hanner was in the formation, Yan Lingyu would have some ideas. After all, he had also been to the Zhuanwu formation. Even if there were differences in the 2 formations, the paths were always the same. However, the other party was in the formation center. This was a completely new environment and a completely new situation. The unknown represented risks, but Yan Lingyu didn't want to take risks. He finally developed to this point now. He was also a genius of his generation and had a promising future. Even without the support of the princess's mansion, Yan Lingyu was confident that he could lead the family to develop. So, his eyes sank slightly and he didn't speak. Kinran continued, originally, I was controlling the array disk by myself, although it was hard, but I could still hold on. However, when the array appeared, the situation changed dramatically. The repulsive pressure of the 4-sided soul locking array increased several times, which was beyond my tolerance. Yan Lingyu frowned more and more as he listened. At this moment, he realized that the array disk in Kinran's hand had cracks. For rescuing King Hanner, none of what Kinran said was good. But this also shows the other party's sincerity. He can completely hide the danger and trick Yan Lingyu into going in. Kinran's voice transmission started again. At this moment, the little princess is still alive. There are signs of her life on the array disk, but she is trapped in a space-time gap and can't get out. The space-time gap is extremely dangerous. Various void monsters live in it. Some void monsters are as powerful as foundation-building cultivators. Every time the little princess stays in it, she has a higher chance of death. In the space-time gap, space-time collapse will occur from time to time. Space-time collapse will create a short black hole. You can return to the real world through this black hole, but the space-time gap is too vast. It takes a lot of time to find the black hole. Therefore, I want to ask you to enter the space-time gap and assist the little princess. Among the three, you are the strongest, almost as strong as the little princess. After Qin Ran finished speaking, Yan Lingyu's eyes became cold, and the good impression he had for the former's sincerity disappeared in an instant. The other party was pushing him into the fire pit. Yan Lingyu said coldly, "Fellow Taoist Qin, you also know the danger. Even if I go in, the possibility of rescuing the little princess is very slim. You might as well let me out and I will find help for you. The princess is a golden elixir cultivator. There is also a formation master in your princess mansion. They must have a way." Qin Ran laughed bitterly. "Do you think there is no master following the little princess? In fact, the princess and Master Wang are waiting outside Kishiling. If there is anything unusual, they will be the first to know. But there is no movement so far, and they can no longer be counted on." As soon as these words came out, Yan Lingyu's heart shuddered. If what the other party said was true, if he refused to rescue, he would be slapped to death by the golden elixir master as soon as he came out of the cave, and even his family would be implicated. Of course, this credibility is very low, otherwise, Lin Zixin and Hai Chongyang would stay here with him. But what is certain is that if he is trapped any longer, the people in the princess mansion will definitely receive the news and rush here. As time goes by, his situation will only become more and more dangerous. A fierce light flashed in his eyes, and he weighed whether to kill Qin Ran. He had the spring and autumn system, and he could make some oaths to the heavenly Dao to get away with it. When Yan Lingyu hesitated, Qin Ran looked at him meaningfully and said to himself, "The little princess has been very kind to me. Even if I die, even if I go to hell, I must let her live." Then, his eyes suddenly became fierce, his face flushed, and his momentum increased. A Bagua map quietly appeared behind him and kept spinning. In an instant, Yan Lingyu felt a sense of crisis. Although he didn't know what Qin Ran was going to do, he had to stop him. Yan Lingyu's Hengshui spirit body opened up, and Renshu Yinli was instantly crisscrossed. The Shuxin Dao seal that he had just practiced also floated out, wanting to give the other party a fatal blow. However, there was a transparent membrane between the two. The membrane was so strong that Yan Lingyu couldn't break through for a while, and could only watch the other party continue to operate. "It's bad," he looked a little ugly, thinking in his heart. Qin Ran also smiled at this moment, but with his suddenly old face, it was creepy. "Yan Lingyu, I promise you, if you can rescue the little princess, I, Qin Ran, am willing to set up a formation for your Yan family for 100 years. In fact, Qin Ran was secretly glad in his heart. Fortunately, Lin Zixin and Hai Chongyang were sent away in advance. Now Yan Lingyu was the only one, and the seal he cast could hardly restrain her. If the other two were added, I'm afraid he couldn't control everyone. At this moment, being able to keep Yan Lingyu was Qin Ran's last resort. He could only hope for this. After Qin Ran cast several spells in a row, the former's figure became illusory, and he went deeper into the tunnel involuntarily. Unlucky, Yan Lingyu looked bitter. As he continued to attack, the invisible restraints around him loosened, but it was too late. The space-time gap was forcibly opened under the joint action of Qin Ran and the four-sided soul-locking formation. Half of Yan Lingyu's body had already entered it. "Qin Ran, if you want to help my Yan family set up the formation, you should also swear an oath to the heavenly Dao." Until the last moment when the time-space gap closed, Yan Lingyu pointed at the guy who had tricked him with one hand and shouted angrily. "Okay, I'll swear," Qin Ran smiled. This is another reason why he chose Yan Lingyu. This person is not only strong, but also mature enough. If an ordinary person is forced like this, he will definitely lose his mind because of anger, and may make impulsive actions that harm the little princess in the time-space gap. But Yan Lingyu will not. He knows what he should do and when. Even at this point, he still stays sober, and even worries that Qin Ran will regret it and worry about his own interests. Such a person can accomplish great things. Letting him save the little princess is really a wise choice. Chapter 57, Qin Hainer, a young man with a hidden agenda, Yan Lingyu. In the gap of time and space, the scenery is very different from the outside world. It is dead and dark all around, and occasionally you can see the brilliance of the real world through a crack. There are bright spots of light, and being in it is like standing under the vast starry sky. But the feelings given by the two are completely opposite. The starry sky makes people feel heroic and ambitious, while the gap of time and space only makes people feel boundless loneliness. At this time, there is a beautiful girl standing in the gap of time and space, not knowing where to go. From the disordered true energy around her, it can be seen that the girl's emotions are extremely unstable. I should have known not to touch that mark. Kinhainer at this moment is full of regrets, and fragments of memories keep coming to her mind, stimulating her. When Kinhainer fought with the Azure Dragon Shadow, the two were evenly matched. Later, because Yan Lingyu took the lead in removing a position, the Azure Dragon Shadow was weakened, so the girl was able to kill the shadow of the beast in the small world. At the same time, she also discovered the Woodheart Deo seal on the Azure Dragon. As the formations were destroyed and the eye of the formation appeared, Kinhainer used the spiritual tools she had prepared in advance to collect the earth-burning fire spirit. Everything should have ended there. However, after collecting the spirit, she found a strange mark in the void. This made Kinhainer think that it was another strange object like the Woodheart Deo seal. She became very interested and tried to touch it. As soon as she touched it, she found that something was wrong, but it was too late. A strong suction force acted on the girl, and even if she tried her best, she couldn't break free until she was sucked into this strange time and space gap. In the time and space gap, there is no alternation between the sun and the moon, only the unchanging darkness. Although Kinhainer is extraordinary, she is only 19 years old after all, and she is also the eldest daughter of the princess's mansion who lives a life of luxury. She has never encountered such a situation before. For a moment, she felt that she was the only one left in the world. She didn't know how much time had passed since she entered here. She completely lost the concept of time and was full of anxiety and fear. Kinhainer had heard of the time-space gap, but this was something that only giant and cultivators would come into contact with, and she didn't know much about it. She didn't know how to get out of here, so she could only rush around like a headless fly. She didn't know whether the princess's mansion could rescue her. She missed her parents very much now, and wanted someone to talk to her and help her dispel her despair about the future. Who can come and help me? Kinhainer couldn't control her emotions, and she broke down a little, crying with a pear blossom on her face. She looked pitiful. As if hearing her words, a crack suddenly appeared in the time-space gap, just a few dozen feet away from the girl. Then, a handsome figure was pushed into it, and then the crack healed, and the figure was cursing. Kinran, this little bastard, I said, how could you be so kind and willing to tell me the whole truth? It turns out that this scheming guy wanted to use force from the beginning. This person was Yan Lingyu, who was hit by Kinran. Even he, who has lived for more than 200 years, could not tolerate the other party's behavior. However, now that things have come to this, he must adjust his mentality, find a way to find Kinhainer, and take the latter out. After all, he is here. When he gets out, he must enslave Kinran well before he can swallow this bad breath. So, Yan Lingyu looked around and observed his own environment. Yan Lingyu, suddenly, a pleasant voice full of surprise came from behind Yan Lingyu. He turned around and saw the familiar graceful figure. Little princess? Why are you crying? Yan Lingyu was a little stunned. He was still thinking about how to find the little princess in this barren and vast place. Unexpectedly, she was right behind him. This made Yan Lingyu wonder if it was arranged by Kinran. How could it be? By the way, how did you get in here? Kinhainer's expression changed instantly, from worry to joy, and a faint smile appeared on her face unconsciously, and she kept approaching the former. It's all because of you. Yan Lingyu thought to himself. Of course, he couldn't say this at the moment. Who knows what kind of character this little princess has? He could bear the old punishment, but the little princess might not be so cunning. If she gets angry, he doesn't know how to coax her. At the same time, Yan Lingyu was secretly relieved. It was a good thing to meet the other party as soon as she entered the time and space gap. It saved the trouble of finding the other party, and in this dangerous place, it would be safer for the two of them to stick together. Now the only problem is how to get out. So Yan Lingyu asked, I was sent in by Kinran. I didn't expect to appear in front of you directly. Little princess, can you contact Kinran? Ask him to open a door at the place where he sent me in, and we can get out. Kinhainer nodded, then shook her head. I can't contact him, and the position in the time and space gap changes from time to time. Even if Kinran opens a hole in the same place, we can't see it. Okay, Yan Lingyu was a little helpless. I have to find a way out myself. By the way, Yan Lingyu, has Kinran ever told you how to get out of here? Black holes will occasionally appear here due to the collapse of space-time, and you can return to the real world through the black holes. Yan Lingyu told him the method. The other party had been here longer than him and might have seen a black hole. Kinhainer was obviously relieved after hearing the former's words. It's easy to deal with it with a method and a goal. Although I have gone around in this gap of space and time, I haven't seen the black hole of space and time, but I believe it will appear somewhere. Let's start looking for it, Kinhainer said with her eyes closed. It's strange to say that since Yan Lingyu came to her side, the girl's original loneliness and panic have all disappeared without a trace. It seems that looking at the other person's face can make her feel extremely relieved. In this way, the two of them shuttled back and forth in the gap of space and time. I don't know how long it has been in the outside world, maybe 7 days? Maybe 10 days? During this period, they also encountered the so-called void monster, but fortunately, its strength was not strong, it just looked weird and ugly, and was easily killed by the two. As time passed, Yan Lingyu's view of Kinhainer changed after getting along with her for a long time. Originally, he thought that such a young noble-only girl would be more or less arrogant and willful. However, the fact is just the opposite. Kinhainer is more gentle and considerate of others. Maybe this is why Kinran is so devoted to her. Thinking of the fact that the other party had directly distributed the spiritual vein to the Yan family before, Yan Lingyu suddenly felt that this girl, she is not experienced in the world. Very easy to deceive. Yan Lingyu is not a pedantic person. The 200 years of hard work in his previous life made him smooth. In short, he is willing to do some lowly things that are despised by Xianjiao. For example, cheating innocent girls. Of course, he still has a bottom line in his heart. He would not do this to ordinary people. The main thing is that Kinran did the bad thing first, and it was the princess mansion that was wrong first. They did it on the first day, why can't Yan Lingyu do it on the 15th? So Yan Lingyu began to ask questions indirectly, not only to get the Muzindao seal out, but also to make the other party promise to help take care of the Yan family members and arrange for young people to study in Cheonan Academy. At this time, Yan Lingyu suddenly wanted to thank Kinran. He helped a lot in getting closer to the little princess. The premise is that the two of them can get out. Chapter 58, This rice is delicious, encountering a school of fish. In the gap of time and space, unless you count your breaths carefully, you will soon lose your sense of time. Yan and Kin kept wandering in the void, avoiding the void monsters. They stopped to rest and adjust until even the powerful 9th level key training felt tired. Kinhainer sat on the ground, breathing and resting. At the same time, she also noticed the strange behavior of the young and handsome man in front of her. The other party was taking out pots and bowls and spiritual materials from the storage bag, and it seemed that he was going to cook. Kinhainer admired the other party's generosity. In such an environment, he still had the leisure to cook food just to fill his stomach. She blinked her beautiful eyes and watched Yan Lingyu's every move. After such a long time of getting along, she thought she had seen the other party's true character. Kinhainer deeply felt that Yan Lingyu was a good person. He asked her about the situation of the princess's mansion. When he learned that the princess and her husband loved and cared about the little princess very much, he encouraged himself to live and not give up on the grounds of not letting his parents be sad. He also talked about his life experience, his family, and his clansmen. Everything made him feel like he was there, as if he had become a member of the Yan family. When the Yan family was honored, he felt honored. When the Yan family was hurt, he would also feel touched. He was also willing to share his cultivation experience with him. He had a unique vision and deep insights, and could quickly help him analyze the problems in his cultivation. As long as he told him about his own skills and Taoist techniques, he would be able to talk freely and point out the areas where he needed to improve. At this moment, Kinhainer suddenly felt that it was great to have a reliable person to accompany him in this lonely and desolate place. As for Yan Lingyu, he was naturally laughing in his heart. This silly girl, I'm afraid she was sold, and she has to help count money. I have to do a good job of psychological construction in the future, so that she won't tell others what happened in the gap between time and space. She is stupid, but the princess is not easy to fool. Yan Lingyu thought in her heart, but her hands did not stop at all. He was indeed steaming and frying spiritual rice. Eating is a great pastime. Of course, The main reason for cooking spiritual rice at this moment is that he has run out of elixirs. If he wants to quickly restore his mana, he can only rely on eating spiritual rice. From fighting with Hai Chongyang to fighting with void creatures, he is consuming mana every moment. Although Yan Lingyu is a master of alchemy, the elixirs he refines are mainly distributed to the family. He does not keep many for himself, so it is foreseeable that the elixirs will run out. Fortunately, Qin Hanner has a small treasury, and she is generous. If you ask her for it, she will give it to you, which can support you for a while. But the other party has a part of the high-level elixir, in case of emergency. Well, Yan Lingyu will keep it for the time being. Soon, a faint rice fragrance began to brew. With the isolation barrier that Yan Lingyu had laid before, there is no need to worry about the threat caused by this fragrance. The food he made is also very simple, that is, spiritual rice fried with spiritual eggs, also known as egg fried rice. Open the lid of the pot, and the golden egg fried rice comes into view. Yan Lingyu scooped up a bowl and handed it to Qin Hanner. The girl hesitated. She didn't eat much spiritual rice. With her family background, she ate high-level spiritual materials and spiritual meat. She was well educated and felt that this egg-fried rice was not worthy of her status. She thought it was just fragrant, but not delicious. Qin Hanner turned her head and pouted, saying, Qin Hanner, will never eat a bite of your spiritual rice. Hey, this rice is so fragrant. Seeing the other party wolfing down the rice while covering his face with his true energy, Yan Lingyu also smiled. Memories of the previous life came to his mind unconsciously. At the beginning, he relied on this egg-fried rice to capture the heart of his wife in the previous life. In the end, the two got married and established a huge Yan family. Not many people have eaten the egg-fried rice he made, except his wife. After Yan Lingyu taught his wife the craft, he went out to work hard for the family business and rarely returned home. His wife was responsible for the food of the children. Lingyu, how did you make this fried rice? It's soft and delicious, the rice and eggs stick together, and it's full of fragrance. It's so delicious, Yan Lingyu chuckled and said, I'll teach you when I have time. Okay, the two chatted and soon they were full. After the break, they continued their journey to find a black hole in time and space that they could get out of. While walking, Yan Lingyu suddenly felt something, pointed in a direction, and asked seriously, Little princess, look, what is that? Looking in the direction of his finger, there was a lavender ocean in the distance, constantly surging. It's too far, I can't see clearly. Qin Hanner looked hard, but there was no result. Not good, leave here quickly. Although he didn't know what it was, Yan Lingyu was sure that it was approaching them. His face changed, and he pulled the girl next to him and hurriedly retreated. While fleeing far away, he always paid attention to the situation behind him. However, what shocked him was that this purple ocean was unstoppable. In this void, there are actually stones and strange plants, some of which are huge, but as soon as they come into contact with the purple, they disappear without a trace, as if they were swallowed. Moreover, its speed is extremely fast. Even if Yan Lingyu pushes the 8 steps of water and stars to the extreme, the distance between them is constantly shrinking. As the distance is shortened to within 2 miles, the true face of the purple wave can finally be seen. This is actually a school of void fish composed of half-human-sized purple fish. Another round of rush, the gap is shortened again. The school of fish seems to have taken a fancy to Yan Lingyu and Qin Hanner. No matter how the former changes direction, it always follows behind them, like a hunter following prey. What should Lingyu do? They will catch up soon, Qin Hanner asked anxiously. Yan Lingyu also racked his brains to think of a solution, but there was nothing nearby, and now it seemed that the only way left was to run. They were still fast at escaping underground, and some void monsters around them had long been submerged by the school of fish. Looking back again, Yan Lingyu suddenly raised his eyebrows. He found that the fish were deliberately avoiding a place, which was a dark tunnel. The space around the tunnel was obviously distorted. A word flashed through his mind, time and space black hole. This is the passage from the gap in time and space back to the real world. But this black hole appeared in the fish school. Could it be that the huge noise made by the fish school caused the space to collapse, thus causing the black hole to appear? Yan Lingyu guessed vaguely in his heart. Just in case, he asked Qin Hanner first, Little princess, do you see that abnormality? Is it a black hole? Not sure, but I was sucked in by that thing. Maybe we can get out through it, Qin Hanner shouted. The other party's answer made Yan Lingyu certain. Anyway, sooner or later, the fish school will catch up, so why not try to get out from there? Even if this is not a black hole, according to what Hengshui said, it is something similar to a teleportation array that can take them away from here. Without time to think, Yan Lingyu and the little princess turned around and rushed towards the school of fish. If it was too late, the black hole would be deeply trapped in the school of fish and could not be found. Chapter 59, Breaking into the fish school and falling into the black hole. The school of fish swimming in the void is huge, and the resources in the gap of time and space are limited, so the individual fish must not be strong. This is also the reason why Yan Lingyu dared to try to break into the school of fish. After fleeing for more than 10 breaths, Yan and the others were almost in contact with the school of fish. After getting closer, they understood the full picture of this strange creature. Although this kind of fish has different shapes, they have a template, which is very similar to a big catfish, but its body is larger and stronger, with 2 long whiskers that keep swinging in the void. Under the whiskers is a huge mouth as big as a cattail fan, which almost occupies 70% of the fish head, making the fish eyes look as small as mung beans. At the same time, the fish teeth in its mouth are white and sharp, as if they can bite through everything. Once you get close, you can hear the dense and harsh cluck grinding sound. The fish in the school of fish are of different sizes and show different pressures, but they are all around the 3rd level of key training. When they see strangers approaching, they become more irritable, and their upper and lower jaws keep biting, and they pounce on Yan and the others. At this time, the black hole has been completely submerged by the school of fish. Fortunately, Yan Lingyu remembered the exact location of the black hole, which was about 50 feet in front of him. For a cultivator like him, this distance would normally take only 3 breaths to reach. But now they had to face the obstruction of the void fish school. This was the last section of the road they had to take, and it was also the most difficult one. When the fish school attacked, Yan Lingyu said nothing, and the Hengshui spirit body and the spirit body source flowed rapidly. The true key bubbles generated by the Zuanshan technique wrapped the 2 people, and the bubbles continued to expand, trying to squeeze out a path in the fish school. At the same time, he leaked the Hengshui Yinlei, like a scallop protecting a pearl, to resist the attack of the fish school for the 2. As soon as they came into contact, Yan Lingyu found that he had thought the fish school was simple. I don't know how these void fish evolved, and their teeth were so good that they could bite through the barrier created by the Zuanshan technique. Almost instantly, the true key bubbles were eaten clean by the rioting fish school. The second layer of protection composed of Hengshui Yinlei was not much better. The fish bit the Yinlei of Hengshui directly without fear of life or death, then bit off a piece and swallowed it into its stomach. Of course, the Yinlei of Hengshui was a rare treasure in the world after all, and after the fish ate it, it was obviously abnormal and fell stiffly. But there were too many fish here, and when one fell, dozens of others continued to move forward, one after another. When all the Yinlei of Hengshui manifested by Yan Lingyu were bitten clean, the 2 had only advanced 10 feet, and there was still some distance from their destination. Ha! A delicate shot sounded behind Yan Lingyu. I saw that at the moment when the barrier formed by the Yinlei of Hengshui disappeared. Hengshui's whole body was shining red, and with her as a circle, countless blue and red firebirds flew out and collided with the surrounding fish in the void. Not only that, a small orange-yellow bell suddenly appeared in Hengshui's hand, with rich spiritual energy on it. It was a superior spiritual weapon. For a moment, the bell vibrated and ripples were wanton. The combination of spiritual weapons and Taoist magic instantly cleared the surrounding fish. This allowed the 2 to speed up their pace. However, this was only temporary, as strange creatures like the void fish surrounded them again. They could even swallow the flames and the sound waves emitted by the spiritual weapon bell. Once the fish in front died, they were eaten by the ones behind, which made the fish attacking Yan and the others uninjured. But the spiritual weapon was a spiritual weapon after all, so they still held on for a few more breaths. These few breaths allowed the 2 to advance at least 10 feet. Finally, they saw the black hole again among the fish. Only when they got closer could they observe it clearly. The black hole was about half the size of a person, and an adult could jump into it. Moreover, there were no fish invading the small space around the black hole. The fish, who were fearless, seemed to be afraid of the black hole and avoided it. The 2 did not have to enter the black hole. Even if they stayed by the black hole, they would not be threatened. Yan Lingyu and Qin Hanner looked at each other and decided to use their full strength to break through the place that represented life. Fight! With a crisp sound, Yan Lingyu summoned the moonlight mirror, and all the mana in his body was absorbed by this spiritual weapon. The mirror shone brightly, flashing with precious light, like a bright full moon. As soon as the spiritual weapon came out, the school of fish was blocked again. Crunch, crunch, a harsh friction sound came. The moonlight barrier protecting the two was constantly being bitten. In just a breath, the light of the treasure mirror was a little dim, which also caused great pressure on Yan Lingyu. When they reached the center of the school of fish, the average strength of the void fish was also increasing, and this change could be seen from their body size. Qin Hanner saw that the situation was not right, and her jade hand reached out again, and two talismans emitting fireflies appeared in her hand. These were two Dao sealing talismans. It was just unknown what Taoist magic was sealed in them. The moment the Dao sealing talismans came into contact with the outside world, they spontaneously ignited. Then, a huge black hand and a ball of blazing fire appeared out of thin air, and the two combined to once again create a clearing around them. Taking this opportunity, the two finally broke into the black hole. Through the center of the black hole, they saw the birds singing and the flowers blooming, and the trees were green. "Hurry, you go first." Yan Lingyu's face suddenly changed, and he said solemnly. Qin Hanner also found that something was wrong with the black hole. It began to become illusory and was slowly shrinking. The black hole is disappearing. Qin Hanner recalled the scene when she first entered the black hole, and a bad premonition came to her mind. This black hole that is about to disappear can only pass one person. She said in a trembling voice, "Lingyu, it seems that only one person can pass through it, and then the black hole will disappear due to instability." At this time, because the black hole was weakened, the fish swimming in the void around it were ready to move again. "I know. So I'll let you go first." Yan Lingyu gritted his teeth, held up the Haoyuden Kongjian, and said with difficulty. The moment he saw the black hole, he discovered this problem. "I'm going over there." "What are you going to do?" "I have my own way." "You're lying. This happened because of me. How can I implicate others?" Qin Hanner had a rare moment of clarity, and came to the former, saying in a gentle voice, "Lingyu, you're very good to me. I don't want you to die. Just go over there. Why are you wasting so much time?" Suddenly Yan Lingyu's face froze, and she activated her magic power. Under Qin Hanner's stunned gaze, she kicked the girl into the black hole without any mercy. "If you feel guilty about me, take care of the Yan family for me." Qin Hanner never thought that the man would suddenly attack her. When she reacted, she was already in the vortex of the black hole and couldn't control herself. In her eyes, there was only the upright and resolute back. "Yan Lingyu. You bastard, you dare to kick me. I must settle this account with you. You must come back alive. If you dare to die, I will wipe out your entire family." Yan Lingyu. "Did you hear me, Yan?" As expected, the black hole could only support the transmission of one person, and he disappeared with Qin Hanner. At this moment, Yan Lingyu was actually relieved. When he knew that the black hole could only pass one person, the ending was already determined. It was not that Yan Lingyu did not want to give birth. He and Qin Hanner were in the gap of time and space together, but in the end he got out, but Qin Hanner did not. It was foreseeable how furious the Princess Mansion would be with him. Chapter 60. Yan Lingyu seeks another way to live. Qin Hanner waits patiently. Yan Lingyu came back to his senses, with only indifference in his eyes. There are only two situations for a weak force to grow and develop rapidly. The first is that this force has obtained a great opportunity, or encountered a high-level Taoist school, or was favored by a big force, so that it can have a qualitative leap. The second is that a strong man who can hold up half the sky is born in this force. This kind of suddenly rising strong man can lead the force he belongs to become stronger. The most representative of these is Qin Wenyu, the founding emperor of the Daqian dynasty. He was originally a commoner, and he stepped up step by step, overthrew the previous dynasty, established a new dynasty, and built a Daqian dynasty that could compete with the ancient sects with his own strength. You must know that the court of the neighboring Dacian dynasty and the previous dynasty are puppets of the sect forces. Qin Wenyu can't do these without extraordinary strength. The two ways to make the force leap, in fact, are the same in the final analysis, that is, quickly gather cultivation resources and expand horizons and channels. Relying on the strong and becoming a strong are both good ways to understand the upper information. If a force wants to be strong, it must know the upper level information. Take the foundation building pill formula of the Yan family for example. Originally, the foundation building pill formula was controlled by the big forces, and because of the existence of the foundation building pill, most of the disciples of these big forces, whether they were geniuses or mediocre people, could finally build a foundation. However, a small force like the Yan family was stopped by the threshold of building a foundation. One side was unimpeded, while the other side was full of obstacles. Their gap was getting wider and wider. Originally, Yan Lingyu thought that he would be the one who carried the tripod, which was the second situation. As long as he could cultivate the golden elixir, the Yan family would naturally become a golden elixir force. When he was there, the Yan family would be able to access things that ordinary foundation building forces could not access, so as to develop and grow rapidly. In the previous life, why was the Yan family able to gain a foothold in Yingzhou? It was because Yanping was so powerful. It was just that there was not much time for the Yan family to develop at that time, otherwise the Yan family would not have immediately declined after Yanping's death. However, things are unpredictable. Yan Lingyu is now in a difficult situation, and he may die in the next life. He has no choice but to take on the responsibility. But fortunately, he saw another way to make the family strong. That is Qin Hainer. As the little princess of Xiaonan County, if she supports the Yan family behind the scenes, the Yan family will not be unscrupulous, but at least there will be no obstacles to development. Take Xiaonan Academy for example. This academy is directly managed by the Daqian dynasty. There are countless cultivation resources in it, and the teachers are also masters from all sides. All forces have to squeeze their heads to enter. However, the children of ordinary forces are not qualified to enter and practice there. As long as the little princess speaks, even if the Yan family members cannot enroll normally, they can follow as servants to broaden their horizons and learn various high-level techniques that are not circulated on the market. They can also understand the upper class through this. Therefore, Yan Lingyu pushed Qin Hainer out. In his opinion, Qin Hainer is more useful to the Yan family than himself. Moreover, Yan Lingyu can be reincarnated. Through the system prompt, he knew that he would have recovery of cultivation and natural sword body in his next life. Although the rewards were not as generous as in this life, they were enough. Because although Yan Lingyu was a reincarnation, his memories were still there. He could continue to practice Zhuangxi Shui Mianju and the skills of alchemy, but he lacked the possibility of improvement. The loss of Hengshui's spiritual body was also compensated by the sword body. By then, Yan Lingyu could take back the spiritual weapon Sanlian Kingming sword, which was also considered to have good combat power. In general, Yan Lingyu's actions had more benefits than losses. Yan Lingyu exhaled a turbid breath. He suppressed all his thoughts in his heart. He was not dead yet, and he still had to deal with the fish swimming in the void in front of him. In his opinion, since the movement of the fish school would stimulate the space to generate black holes, maybe somewhere in this fish school, there was a passage to the real world. Yan Lingyu, was not dead. With a loud shout, Yan Lingyu opened the light of the spiritual weapon. The Hengshui Yinlei was everywhere, and 3 condensed water heart Dao seals came out together, rushing into the fish school again. This time, without Qin Hainer, he could narrow the scope of protection, and the pressure was not as great as before. Yan Lingyu, somewhere in Kishuling, an angry and sad cry sounded. Qin Hainer was teleported to a dense forest. She should be happy to return to the real world, but at this moment, her eyes were full of loneliness and desolation. The man she had been with for a long time disappeared, and she knew the other's ending, which made Qin Hainer's heart inexplicably painful. Hainer, an excited voice came. In just a moment, a middle-aged man in a gorgeous robe appeared beside the former. The man who came was the princess of Xiaonan County, Qin Zhang. The father had been waiting in Kishuling for a whole month. Now that he finally saw his daughter, his worry faded away and he called out softly, "Hainer. It's great that you can come back." The familiar voice sounded in her ears, and a glimmer of light flashed in Qin Hainer's eyes. She turned around, as if she had grasped a life-saving straw, and said excitedly, "Dad, please save Yan Lingyu. He is in there. You can save him by opening a black hole." The princess frowned, and the imagined scene of the father and daughter hugging and crying did not appear. Instead, her daughter cared about another man. This made Qin Zhang feel a little uncomfortable. He heard from Qin Ran that Yan Lingyu was a genius of the Yan family who was sent by Qin Ran to rescue Qin Hainer. Now that Qin Hainer is out and Yan Lingyu is not out, Princess Kin also guessed a general situation. Princess Kin said helplessly, Hainer, you also know the situation of the space-time gap. There are so many changes inside, and I can't do anything. But since Yan Xiao can save you, maybe he can find other ways to get out. This made Kin Hainer's eyes shine again, and she said with spirit, yes. Maybe there's still a black hole. Maybe Yan Lingyu is not dead yet. Seeing her daughter cheer up a little, Princess Kin also looked relieved and said, Hainer, come with me to see your mother first. She is so anxious. Kin Hainer's biological mother almost fainted from grief after learning that her daughter was trapped in the space-time gap, and Kin Zhang had to leave her in the princess's mansion to recuperate. No, I want to wait here for Yan Lingyu to come out, so that I can't let go of this heart, Kin Hainer refused firmly. The other party's answer once again exceeded Kin Zhang's expectations, and then a sharp light flashed in his eyes. Princess Kin, who had seen many storms, knew that her daughter was in love. This made the lord of a county feel very uneasy, as if the one he loved was being taken away. The key point was that this man was his daughter's savior, so he couldn't say much. If he took his daughter away by force at this moment, it would hurt her even more. As a father, Kin Zhang began to worry. Seeing that his daughter had made up her mind, Princess Kin was depressed and smashed a rockery in the air. At this moment, he prayed that Yan Lingyu would not come back. Chapter 61 Kin Ran, Zhang family. 2 days later, Kin Zhang finally left Qianshiling. As the princess of Xiaonan County, he had too many official duties to deal with. In the past month, a lot of work has been delayed. Now that his daughter has returned, he can finally breathe a sigh of relief. Kin Zhang did not take Kin Hainer away, but left the latter behind and arranged for experts to protect her. Among them was Kin Ran, who was lucky enough to survive. After sending Yan Lingyu away, Kin Ran could no longer bear the heavy injuries and fainted. It was the Yan family members who came later who found him and rescued him, and he did not die from excessive blood loss. Kin Ran looked at Kin Hainer from a distance. Seeing that the latter was safe and sound, he was also relieved and smiled. Then, his face dimmed again. Just now, before Princess Kin left, she had a detailed talk with him. Princess Kin asked Kin Ran about his opinion of Yan Lingyu, especially whether the latter had any shortcomings. At first, Kin Ran did not understand the real reason for the question and thought that Princess Kin was going to reward Yan Lingyu. Therefore, Kin Ran gave a very high evaluation with a sense of guilt. He did not exaggerate too much, and most of what he said was true. In fact, he admired Yan Lingyu, a young man, very much, especially after knowing that Kin Hainer was kicked out. Maybe the other party did have some calculations in his heart at that time, but a person can die generously between life and death, which is already incomparable to ordinary people. What's more, Yan Lingyu is a genius with a bright future. Putting himself in that situation, he might still hesitate. However, what Kin Ran did not expect was that what he said made Princess Kin look very ugly. It was also at this time that he was told that Kin Hainer might like Yan Lingyu, and he also learned the specific process of Kin Hainer being rescued. He was the culprit who sent Yan Lingyu into danger. No wonder the little princess didn't give him a good face these days. Good guy, he harmed his future son-in-law. Kin Ran stroked the cracked array in his hand, shook his head with a chuckle, and murmured, I'm really going to be a slave now. Unlike Princess Kin, who hoped Yan Lingyu would not come back, Kin Ran had a hunch that the guy would definitely come back safely. He was a man with great luck. He had already anticipated his future situation. After thinking about it, Kin Ran fled to the mountainside behind him, where the new family house of the Yan family was being built. He should fulfill his promise. Kin Hainer had been sitting here waiting for 2 days. She didn't know what was wrong with her, but she felt empty in her heart. She knew that even if Yan Lingyu would come out of the time and space black hole, she would probably not be in this position, but she was too lazy to move. Over the past few days, Kin Hainer also realized that something was wrong with her. She thought a lot. She suspected that she had fallen in love with that man. She really wanted to see him again. Then, Kin Hainer frowned again, and she was a little worried in her heart. Would Yan Lingyu like her? I think so. I'm not bad. Moreover, the plot of heroes saving beauties in vernacular novels kept appearing in Kin Hainer's mind, making her pretty face flushed. Little princess, suddenly, a soft call sounded behind Kin Hainer. The person who came was Liu Yuxi, the elder of the Yan family. She naturally knew everything about Yan Lingyu. Originally, she was a little angry with this little princess, but gradually, Liu Yuxi regarded Qin Han'er as her own family. They sat together for 2 days, and it was hard for others not to see the love of the little princess. Think about it, a man and a woman have been together in a dangerous environment, sharing weal and woe for so many days. How can they develop feelings? What's more, these two are young people with youth sprouting. Qin Han'er is only 20 years old this year, and Yan Lingyu is 24 years old. Liu Yuxi is relieved for this. It's not that she is snobbish and has taken a fancy to the identity of the little princess. Even if Qin Han'er is replaced by an ordinary mortal woman, Liu Yuxi is still very happy. It is rare to find such a person who deeply loves each other. It is Yan Lingyu's blessing to meet such a woman. Little princess, this is Lingyu's soul lamp, Liu Yuxi called again, holding a lamp with a flickering candlelight. Qin Han'er came back to her senses and looked at the old man with a peaceful face and the soul lamp in her hand, which represented Yan Lingyu's life situation. The light was still there, indicating that Yan Lingyu was not dead yet. Qin Han'er naturally knew the situation at that time. Once the black hole disappeared, the Void Fish School lost their fear and would attack Yan Lingyu without hesitation. Although the time flow of the inner and outer worlds is not the same, the difference is not big. Yan Lingyu has survived until now, which means that he has found a way to get out of the fish school, otherwise he could not have supported it for so long alone. Thinking of this, Qin Han'er's hope increased a little bit, and his eyes became brighter. Thank you, it is really important to me, Qin Han'er smiled. He took the soul lamp, held it in his hand, felt its weight, and the warmth emitted by the lamp. Qin Han'er was like being in Yan Lingyu's arms. Everything was going in a good direction. Yingshao, Beking Zhang family. Zhang Zhangyi looked at the information in his hand, frowning, and asked the head of the Zhang family beside him, "Is this true?" The head of the Zhang family also smiled bitterly. It should be true. Many members of the Yan family have begun to move to Keishuling. Humph. The Yan family is lucky. A trace of jealousy flashed in Zhang Zhangyi's eyes. An ownerless spiritual vein far away from the supervision of the court. This opportunity is really too great. Not only can the Yan family's financial resources be further improved, if Keishuling develops in the future, some towns and villages will slowly form around it, and the influence of the Yan family will be greatly enhanced. Then, Zhang Zhangyi patted the secret letter in his hand again, and asked in a low voice with gloomy eyes, "Is this true too?" "It's true." Hai Chonggyang of the Hai family personally admitted that he is not as good as Yan Lingyu, and the latter really learned the Zhuangxi Shumianju. Bang! Zhang Zhangyi's magic power shook, smashing the documents in front of him. He said angrily, "How could Yan Lingyu have such talent? No one in my Zhang family has been able to practice the technique to perfection for several generations, but he has mastered it all at once. He has even practiced the Zhuan-level Taoist technique on the Zhuangxi Shui Mianju before he even reached the foundation building stage. Waste. All of you are a bunch of waste." The secret letter described Yan Lingyu's Taoist technique, including Renshu Yinli. The Zhang family had been coveting this technique for hundreds of years, spending countless manpower and material resources. As a result, as soon as the Zhang family gave up, a member of the Yan family, a wood-based family, actually practiced it to perfection. The key point is that this technique was given by Zhang Zhangyi himself. This made him furious, and his recovered injuries broke again. "Father, isn't there another good news? Yan Lingyu is trapped in the cracks of time and space and can't get out," Zhang Kaiming said faintly. "That's just a guess. What if she comes out? Once Yan Lingyu comes out, how can our Zhang family deal with it? This is another Yanping and Liu Yuxi, even more difficult than them." After suffering many blows in succession, Zhang Zhangyi was pessimistic. He added, "We need to hurry up and train the scattered tribesmen." Yes, fortunately, Princess Qin ordered that all the information about Qin Han'er be blocked, and only a few people knew about it. If the Zhang family knew that Yan Lingyu not only saved the little princess, but also fell in love with him, perhaps Zhang Zhangyi would find a pit on the spot and bury himself in it. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 62, The Array in the Fish School, The Woman in the Palace. In the crack of time and space, Yan Lingyu secretly groaned. After struggling to resist the crazy attacks of the void fish for half an hour, his true energy has run out. It can only be said that it was fortunate that he had cheated Qin Hanner of the high-level spiritual medicines, such as the 8 C's Qi pills, Zuanin Qi pills, and Zuan King pills, otherwise he really couldn't hold on for so long. But even so, the pills have run out, the spiritual rice has been eaten up, and even the dim and lightless Hao Dan Kongjian was used as an iron patch to fill the loopholes. Yan Lingyu was truly out of ammunition and food. Just when he thought he was going to die, an inexplicable light flashed among the void fish. Yan Lingyu vaguely saw a round disc that looked very similar to the array disc in Qin Ran's hand. This shocked him. Regardless of whether he was dazzled or not, Yan Lingyu supported the last bit of true energy and struggled to drill towards the place where the light flashed. The desire to survive is extremely strong. For the hope in his heart, the power of the Yan family's ancestral blood-burning technique was increased by half on Yan Lingyu. After applying the Zuanshan technique again, the large number of fish around him were cleared, and Yan Lingyu finally saw the glowing object clearly. It was indeed a Taoist array. There were also inscriptions on it that emitted a faint fluorescent light. At this moment, Yan Lingyu had only one thought in his mind, that this was a teleportation array. The array was not big, with a straight diameter of 10 feet. He did not recognize many of the runes on it, but he also recognized some. In the center of the array was a circular pattern composed of 5 small inscriptions. The light he saw earlier came from this. Among these 5 inscriptions, 2 were ones that Yan Lingyu had seen before. The water heart Taoist seal. The wood heart Taoist seal. The other 3 seemed a little blurry and could not be seen clearly, but they were probably the 3 seals of gold, fire, and earth. As for why Yan Lingyu could only see the water heart and the wood heart clearly, perhaps he only mastered these 2 Taoist arts. His heart was moved, and he summoned the last water heart Dao seal that was nurtured in his sea of consciousness. In an instant, the water heart Dao seal pattern on the array disc glowed brightly. The entire array disc began to rotate. The surrounding void fish became agitated, but they did not attack Yan Lingyu, but chose to stay away and avoid the array disc. Suddenly, a deep blue light as thick as a person shot out from the array disc and shone on Yan Lingyu. At the same time, he felt a huge suction sweeping over his body, trying to lead him into the array disc. The next moment, Yan Lingyu only felt that his vision was dim and the surroundings were spinning. The time and space around him kept changing, and vaguely, he saw a magnificent palace. This is a huge palace divided into several floors. On the lowest floor of the palace, there is a duel arena. At this time, on the duel arena, 2 people were engaged in a fierce attack and defense conversion. Yan Lingyu, give up, one of the tall and thin men with a nose like an eagle hook said faintly. And his opponent was Yan Lingyu, the 7th generation of the Yan family. Compared to when she left Beatty City 5 years ago, Yan Lingyu has matured a bit. The grown-up girl has a little more charm. However, unlike her original tenderness and innocence, Yan Lingyu's face looks depressed, haggard and pale. Drops of sweat kept sliding down from her forehead, dripping onto the platform or soaking her clothes. Yan Lingyu's clothes also looked tattered, patched up, and almost no intact piece could be seen. Through some holes, you could see the skin inside. Yan Lingyu panted and bent her body slightly. The hairpin was thrown somewhere. The dry hair fell naturally under the gravity of heaven and earth, covering her unwilling face. 5 years ago, she left home to venture out. The first stop was the Shiwan Mountains. There, she and a group of key training monks entered a cave by chance. The cave was full of dangers, and at the same time, the monks had no choice but to be forced into a strange formation. The monks who entered the formation did not come out again. With a rough heart, a huge force pushed Yan Lingyu into formation. Inside the formation was a new world, where she saw many corpses of monks and a phantom of a flying dragon emitting green light, which looked very similar to the mythical beast King Long. But this King Long was extremely weak, and even Yan Lingyu, who had just reached the 6th level of key training, could fight it, but was only slightly inferior. Later, she learned that the one who had fought with a King Long phantom before her was a cultivator of the 9th level of key training, and both of them were injured. Before the King Long was repaired by the formation, Yan Lingyu was teleported in and picked up a big leak. During the battle, the latter accidentally discovered the inscription on the back of the King Long phantom. After completely memorizing the inscription, the King Long phantom stopped attacking, and then a teleportation formation appeared in the small world and sent it to this palace. It was also at this time that Yan Lingyu learned that the formation where the Qinglong Phantom was located was the place where the ancient great sect Zhenming sect selected outer disciples. This palace, named Fuzhen Hall, is the main hall of the Fuzhen school of Zhenming sect. There was no one inside, but because of the teleportation array, many outsiders were sent in. As long as these key training monks pass the test of Fuzhen Hall, they can inherit the Fuzhen school. After receiving this news, all the key training monks were naturally ecstatic, and so was Yan Lingyu. But her nightmare began from then on. Because Yan Lingyu entered this place purely by coincidence, it happened to be when the test of the divine beast was weak. Other key training monks entered here with real materials. Therefore, she is almost the weakest among the key training monks present. The first trial of Fuzhen Hall is to compete in martial arts. In this first level hall, there are 2 Taoist temples. The projects of the 2 Taoist temples are different. One of them is a Taoist formation. As long as you break through this formation, you can pass the first level test. After several key training monks who think they have high cultivation entered, most of them ended up as corpses and were transmitted out. Only 2 successfully passed. These 2 are from the top forces in the Dacian dynasty. They are the best in key training. This shocked the remaining monks, and they all chose the second dojo. The second dojo is the martial arts stage under Yan Lingyu's feet. Key training monks fight each other. The winner gets 1 point. The loser loses 1 point, and the lowest score is 0. As long as each person gets 10 points, he can enter the first level of the training space and get the opportunity to learn the unique skills of this Zhenming sect's Fuzhen Dao lineage, and be teleported to the second level of the palace to continue to fight for the opportunity of the second level. This is a rule of the survival of the fittest. The head eats the points of the middle, and the middle eats the points of the tail. As for what the tail eats, no one will care about the feelings of the weak. Yan Lingyu has been in this palace for 5 years, and she has 0 points so far. She is too weak for the key training monks who enter here. If it weren't for the fact that others needed to brush points on her, Yan Lingyu might have been beaten to death long ago. This extremely humble experience made the girl understand her weakness again. But because of her weakness, she longed to be strong. During these 5 years, she was fighting, recuperating, and practicing. Even though she was constantly knocked down, Yan Lingyu still grew tenaciously. Chapter 63, Yan Lingyu's Persistence, the newcomer to the palace. On the duel stage, Yan Lingyu once again brushed shoulders with a hook-nosed man, and she also had 1 more wound on her body. However, Yan Lingyu's eyes were full of determination. Although she was the weakest among the group at the beginning, and now her points are still 0. But her situation is changing. 5 years have passed, and he has gone from the original 5th level of key training to the current peak of the 7th level of key training, and is about to reach the 8th level of key training. This battle after battle has contributed greatly. Moreover, she has gone from being hard to win to now occasionally having a small victory. Her dedication and hard work have paid off. Now there are not many key training monks left in the 1st level, and their strength is relatively ordinary. Yan Lingyu still has a chance to collect 10 points, upgrade to the upper level, and see the inheritance of the Fuzhen Dao. She needs this inheritance, whether it is to improve her own strength, to better protect her clansmen, or to share it with the family and improve the overall situation of the family. Yan Lingyu can find the extraordinary Fuzhen Dao from the Muzhen Dao seal that she got earlier. This is just the tip of the iceberg of inheritance, and it has surpassed all the Taoist arts and techniques in the Yan family's library. Other inheritances are even more unimaginable. Moreover, these battles have broadened her horizons, freed her from the situation of sitting in a well and looking at the sky, and let her know the vastness of the outside world. Yan Lingyu found that the Yan family was still too poor and weak, compared with the cultivators in other states and counties. Whether it is magic or magic tools, they are far inferior to others at the same level. Yan Lingyu saw a young man in this palace, who was much younger than her. When this man first came in, he was at the 7th level of key training. At this time, he could fight with ordinary 9th level key training. And when he broke through to the 8th level of key training, he already had the strength to kill the 9th level key training. This ability to challenge across levels was too exaggerated in Yan Lingyu's opinion, which had almost never appeared in Ying Zhao. There are many geniuses like this. Their talents, the skills they practiced, and the magic tools they sacrificed were much higher than those of the Yan family. Even Yan Lingyu saw that there were key training cultivators who could use spiritual tools. All of this broke her routine. It also made her envious and more eager to be strong. If she had such strength, she would definitely be able to protect her ninth brother and her family. Yan Lingyu sank into the sea of consciousness, where two Dao seals floated. One was her own wood heart Dao seal, and the other was the water heart Dao seal she exchanged. She knew that her ninth brother had a talent for water magic, but he just lacked high-level Taoist magic practice. If she could give this extraordinary water heart Dao seal to her ninth brother, he would definitely jump up excitedly. At this moment, the pain all over her body could not cover up the faint smile on Yan Lingyu's face. As if she was encouraged, she suddenly shouted, activated the skills, and sacrificed her strongest method, the wood heart Dao seal. Yan Lingyu wanted to win this point. The man on the other side frowned when he saw this scene. He said gloomily, Yan Lingyu, you'd better give up. Otherwise I will use heavy hands. The hook-nosed man was named Lin Jin, from the Lin family of Bazhao, Canghai County. The Lin family was also a big family in his local area. After coming here, he found that his strength was the bottom of the group. He chose to save his elixir and strength in the early stage, and endured for a few years. After all the masters left, he was the strongest in this first layer. He now has 8 points. As long as he gets 2 more points, he can get rewards and enter the next layer. However, the remaining people in this layer have been avoiding him intentionally or unintentionally and not fighting with him recently. He wanted to kill people to demonstrate, but after those people joined forces, Lin Jin could only avoid the edge temporarily. But fortunately, there is a silly Yan Lingyu. As long as you challenged her, the other party will definitely accept it. However, this woman is very stubborn. She obviously can't beat him, but she just won't admit defeat. She has to fight half to death before she will automatically admit defeat under the judgment of the formation. The formation of the first layer has a protection mechanism. Only when the monk's injuries recover more than 80%, can he continue to challenge. After each fight with Yan Lingyu, it will take a few days to get points again. At this moment, Lin Jin also saw that everyone present was counting on Yan Lingyu. Therefore, every time they duel with her, they have to try to hold back, so as not to let the opponent be too seriously injured and recover faster. However, this woman's cultivation progress is also very fast. Now she has gradually caught up with them. If they are really timid, there is a risk of losing. Lin Jin just felt extremely irritated and depressed. If it were not for her absence, it would be difficult to ascend to the second level. Lin Jin would have wanted to slap this woman to death with one palm. After Lin Jin finished speaking, he was responded by the Taoist magic performed by the resolute woman. The wooden heart Taoist seal emitting green ripples shot out huge power. It actually shocked Lin Jin back. The appearance of several Taoist seals slightly erased the original gap between Yan Lingyu and him in Taoist magic. The only difference between the two was their cultivation. One was at the 8th level of key training, and the other was at the 7th level of key training. Feeling the violent ripples of the wood spirit in his body, a trace of ruthlessness flashed in Lin Jin's eyes. You keep talking about family and clan members all day long. It's really disgusting. If it's your turn to be a rubbish like you to maintain your broken Yan family, don't even think about developing it. It's doomed to perish halfway. The remaining monks present all knew why Yan Lingyu was so stubborn. It was the so-called protection of clan members that drove her. Lin Jin thought that as long as he could crush the other party in terms of family, this woman would lose her fighting spirit and be willing to give up. However, his words seemed to touch Yan Lingyu's reverse scale. This fragile woman with bruises all over her body straightened her back and rushed towards him again. You're looking for death? Lin Jin's anger and irritability could no longer be suppressed. He was ready to go all out. In his opinion, as long as he defeated Yan Lingyu, he would have 9 points. After that, he could get the last point by forcing anyone else. Suddenly, Lin Jin's whole body turned into a huge fire eagle, with billowing flames, and he attacked the other party with an excited whistle. Yan Lingyu's eyes were firm, and she wanted to resist with her true energy. But she couldn't resist the opponent's full-strength attack. The flames spread all over the girl's body. Her clothes, which were already unbearable, were burned up in an instant, leaving only a few pieces of feathers to slightly cover her spring light. At the same time, Yan Lingyu's skin was also burned black. In an instant, the formation in the hall determined that she had lost her ability to fight and gave her the defeat. -0, add 1, two small words rose from the heads of the two people. Yan Lingyu had no points, so she could only -0. Linjin. The angry shouts came from the other key training monks on the first floor. They also wanted to get 10 points, but they were prone to getting hurt when fighting each other, and others would take advantage of them. So they all counted on Yan Lingyu. However, Linjin wanted to kill her, which was tantamount to crossing the river and destroying the bridge, cutting off their retreat. How could they not be angry? What? Not convinced? Let's compete? I'm just 1 point behind. Humph, who among us is willing to compete with you? Yan Lingyu is so injured, it will take another month for her to recover, and you can forget about going to the second floor. Several cultivators on the first floor kept talking nonsense. The seriously injured Yan Lingyu could only lie on the cold ground silently, relying on the healing effect of King Mugong to heal her wounds. Boom! Amid the noise in the hall, the golden door that was originally closed suddenly opened. Chapter 64 Lingyu strikes, ruthlessly kills instantly. Boom! A loud noise came, as if the entire Fushun hall was shaking. The expressions of several key training monks on the first floor were different, but most of them were happy. Fushun hall would send new key training monks in every 1 or 2 years. Linjin himself was the third batch to enter. Among these latecomers, there are naturally masters and rookies. Moreover, these latecomers must not have mastered all kinds of Dao seals perfectly, and their strength is generally lower. Therefore, as long as Linjin and his people seize the opportunity when the other party does not understand the situation and decisively challenge, they can often collect certain points. However, what surprised Linjin and his people was that there were not many people entering the hall this time. Only one. This person was young, looked to be in his early 20s, wearing a black and green hair crown on his head, and had a handsome and delicate appearance. But he looked a little embarrassed. The person who came was Yan Lingyu, who had just escaped from the Void Fish School. After a short sway, the formation here directly transmitted the information of the first floor to his mind. When everyone noticed him, Yan Lingyu naturally discovered these people. His attention was attracted by a delicate woman. Although she was covered in wounds, her figure was so familiar to Yan Lingyu. That was his seventh sister, Yan Lingyu. He still clearly remembered the scene when he saw the girl off 5 years ago. At that time, Yan Lingyu was so full of longing and smiling. But now she was like a charred carbon figure, almost dead. Seventh sister, Yan Lingyu called out excitedly and flashed in front of the girl. As an alchemist, he started to feel the pulse of the clan sister directly, and he breathed a sigh of relief after confirming that the other party was not in danger of life. Fortunately, he had extorted a lot of spiritual medicine from King Hanner before. Although the pills for restoring mana had been used up, there were still many pills for healing injuries. Yan Lingyu took out 2 of the best quality pills, crushed them with water spirit energy, and then put them into Yan Lingyu's mouth for her to take. The effect of the pill was very strong. In just a moment, the dying Yan Lingyu regained consciousness and her wounds improved. The moment the girl opened her eyes was unbelievable. Ninth brother, it's me. Seventh sister, after knowing that it was not an illusion, Yan Lingyu's expression changed, and her anxiety was beyond words. She summoned a small water heart seal, drove it to Yan Lingyu's chest, and anxiously transmitted, Ninth brother, you should practice this seal quickly, and if someone challenges you in the future, you must refuse, and don't act on impulse. These people have been refining the seal for too long. You are not their opponent. They will be vicious and will beat you to death. In Yan Lingyu's view, her ninth brother is still the innocent child who still needs her protection. Yan Lingyu didn't want Yan Lingyu to be harmed in the slightest. She wanted to stand up and protect him. However, Yan Lingyu bent his arm and took him into his arms. At this moment, the ancestor of the Yan family, who had lived for more than 200 years, only felt distressed and accumulated anger in his heart. From the eyes of the clan sister who kept scanning the other people, he guessed that those people were the culprits who hurt Yan Lingyu like this. Yan Lingyu looked down at the woman whose face was beginning to turn red. He smiled brightly and said, "Don't worry, seventh sister. I am your ninth brother, but I am very strong." Then, he slowly raised his head, and his face changed from warm to as cold as ice for 1,000 years. If Hai Chongyang were here at this moment, he would have to say to him, "I will take you as my own and run away." If Lin Zixin saw Yan Lingyu like this, he might have knelt down and called her grandpa. Linjin and his friends were naturally very happy to see the warm scene of the siblings recognizing each other. Yan Lingyu was so weak, so the newcomer, who is her younger brother, was just a boy who gave away points, right? Linjin was only 1 point short, so he just made up the number. He sent a challenge to Yan Lingyu as quickly as possible. Linjin is challenging you, do you accept? An inexplicable sound rang in his heart. This made Yan Lingyu chuckle. He was really in a hurry to reincarnate. Oh no, Linjin got there first. This guy is really quick. I hope he doesn't kill this new guy, and leaves him some time to help us score points. Several other Kigen cultivators started to shout and express their regret. Yan Lingyu accepts your challenge. Please be prepared. When the formation's prompt came, Linjin showed a cruel and sinister smile on his face. He had long been unhappy with Yan Lingyu, but he couldn't kill her just for the sake of points. Now he has 9 points, and as long as he defeats this so-called Yan Lingyu, he will naturally be promoted to the 2nd level. Seeing that this guy is also a stubborn guy who won't admit defeat, he just took out his resentment on him. As for the consequences of killing the other party, he would be promoted to the 2nd level by then, so why would he care about the life and death of the 1st level cultivators? On the other side, after Yan Lingyu accepted Lin Jin's challenge, he comforted his worried sister, and then slowly walked onto the duel stage. His steps were very slow, which made others anxious, thinking that he was going to regret it. That Lin Jin even kept urging him. However, the others did not know why Yan Lingyu was walking so slowly. At this time, Yan Lingyu was thinking hard, how can I make people suffer while not letting them die too quickly? Tap, with a light sound, Yan Lingyu fell on the duel stage. The next moment, Lin Jin's body shape changed, the fire heart Dao seal shot out, and his arm turned into an eagle claw burning with flames, grabbing Yan Lingyu's throat at an extremely fast speed that was difficult to see with the naked eye. Almost in front of the other party, but this handsome man still did not make any reaction. Lin Jin smiled secretly, are you scared silly, kid? Pa! Suddenly, Lin Jin's vision suddenly darkened, and a palm with 5 slender fingers, without knowing when, had already appeared in front of him. He had no time to block it, and the dark green viscous liquid overflowing from the palm had already invaded his entire face. Lin Jin only felt that he was hitting a mountain with his face. In an instant, his face was kneaded into a ball by the huge force, especially his iconic hooked nose, which had collapsed and was covered with red, white and green, turning into a pool of chicken manure. From beginning to end, Lin Jin and Yan Lingyu fought for less than a breath. Before the other Kigen cultivators could react, the former had already been defeated. +1, -1, when the characters rose from the heads of the two people, everyone came back to their senses and the battle was over. Lin Jin was lifted up by the face and groaned in pain. The surrounding Kigen cultivators retreated one after another, as if they were looking at an ancient demon, and kept moving away from Yan Lingyu. Yan Lingyu raised the bubbles of Zuanshan art to prevent Lin Jin's filth from splashing on himself. He wondered in his heart, is this guy so weak? How can he come here? Yan Lingyu was able to come to this palace, and he encountered the shadow of Zuanwu and fought alone against the school of fish in the void. It can be said that he survived a lot before entering the teleportation array. If he was a little weaker, I'm afraid he would have died. How could Lin Jin, who was only at the 8th level of key training, reach this point? Perhaps, something happened that Yan Lingyu didn't know about. Then, suppressing the doubts in his heart, he looked at Yan Lingyu, who was wrapped in water vapor not far away, and smiled. 7th sister, how do you want this guy to die? At this time, Yan Lingyu was also stunned. When did his 9th brother become so strong? Is he his 9th brother? Chapter 65, Dealing with the Monks, Seeing Zuanwu Again. The first floor of the Fuziendao Palace. Yan Lingyu, who was surrounded by the rich water spirit, blinked her beautiful eyes and looked at the man in front of her, who was both familiar and unfamiliar to her. After 5 years of not seeing each other, her 9th brother has grown taller and more mature, and looks more like an adult. Not only that, his strength is really strong. When she was still in Beatty City, Yan Lingyu vaguely realized that something was wrong with her cousin. His talent was very exaggerated. Even if he practiced while refining pills, his cultivation could grow rapidly. Because of this, Yan Lingyu would feel at ease to go out and hone herself. She thought that after this battle, she could become stronger quickly and continue to protect Yan Lingyu. However, the growth rate of the 9th brother still exceeded her expectations. The former had no idea how strong Yan Lingyu is now. But she could feel that Yan Lingyu was the strongest key training cultivator she had ever seen, No one else. The shock she felt from the other party even exceeded that of the clan elder Liuxi. In a daze, Yan Lingyan's eyes were a little dim. The gap between her and the ninth brother was getting bigger and bigger. It seemed that she could no longer protect the ninth brother, and even became a burden. Seventh sister, seeing that the clan sister was slow to speak, Yan Lingyu asked. Before Yan Lingyan could answer, Lin Jin, who was held in his hand, spoke first. Although the latter's face was pressed down, let alone talking, he couldn't even breathe, but he could still do ventriloquism. Lin Jin was extremely anxious at this time. He knew that he was in big trouble and might die in the next moment. He strongly felt the murderous aura transmitted from the young man beside him. This murderous aura alone made him shit and piss. At the same time, Lin Jin also saw that Yan Lingyu listened to his sister very much. As long as Yan Lingyan spoke, Lin Jin might still be able to survive. Aunt Yan, I know I was wrong. I shouldn't have mocked you and hurt you before. Please forgive me and treat me as a fart. I still have many spiritual objects here, I can give them all to you. Lin Jin can speak so eloquently with ventriloquism. He is a talent. As he spoke, he shook off many bottles and books from his body. There were elixirs, magic tools, and exercises. He was quite rich. He also kept wailing and crying. How miserable he was. Yan Lingyan couldn't bear it and said to her cousin, "Ninth brother, I'm fine too." Forget it. Seeing this, Yan Lingyu let go with an expressionless face. The first thing Lin Jin did when he fell to the ground was to kowtow and kneel. Thank you, and thank you. However, before he kowtowed a few times, he suddenly realized that his head was no longer under his control. He turned his eyes away in astonishment, only to see Yan Lingyu's indifferent expression. The latter said calmly, "My sister said she won't kill you, but I didn't say I won't kill you." After saying that, Yan Lingyu swept through the sundries that Lin Jin had dumped out and kicked his body aside. He sighed in his heart, Lingyan is still too soft-hearted. She needs to be taught well in the future, otherwise she will suffer sooner or later. Ninth brother, you, well, it's okay. Yan Lingyan also sighed. Then, after Yan Lingyu asked the elder sister about the situation, he turned around and looked at the other Kigan cultivators. He said with a frosty face, "Why? Do you want me to do it myself?" One of the Kigan cultivators was also tough and said, "You killed all of us, and there are only 2 of you left. How can you raise 10 points? Without 10 points, you can't go up to the 2nd floor, and you can't get out of this talisman formation." Puff, the guy's head fell off before he finished speaking. Noisy, after making a move, Yan Lingyu said calmly, and then pointed the magic sword in his hand, which killed people without blood, at the other people. Plop, plop, plop. Several Kigan cultivators were trembling, and they knelt down and begged for mercy. "Senior Yan, please give me a chance to live, please give me a chance to live, I will agree to whatever you say." They had overlooked one thing before. Yan Lingyu was too strong. He could have admitted defeat to Yan Lingyu in 10 games, and then climbed to the 2nd level by breaking through the formation. Because this Hanming sect members were not here, there was only a rigid formation monitoring here, so this kind of score-brushing behavior was possible, which was considered cheating. This kind of thing had happened before. It's just that these few people didn't have a big boss to support them. At this moment, the remaining Kigan cultivators suddenly realized that they were no longer of any use to the Yan siblings. The ending of useless people can be imagined. After seeing Lin Jin being killed in seconds, they knew that even if they joined forces, they were not a match for the god of killing, and they had no intention of resisting at all. Therefore, they could only beg for mercy and ask Yan Lingyu to let them go. Yan Lingyu kicked a broken porcelain bottle at his feet. Several people understood, took out the spiritual objects in their storage bags and handed them over. Yan Lingyu nodded and murmured, "You help my 7th sister to get 10 points, and then one of you cuts off one arm, you can live, and I can swear to the heaven." Anger flashed in the eyes of several people, but they had to bow their heads under the eaves, and finally they did it. They were familiar with helping others to score points. Soon, Yan Lingyu reached 10 points. Yan Lingyu looked at the former and said softly, "7th sister, you go to practice inheritance first, I will come over later." After speaking, he turned and looked at a formation in the palace. That was another way to the 2nd floor. He wanted to see if there was any difference between the 2 roads. As for why he let the other few people go, Yan Lingyu was not so kind. The spiritual objects of those people were confiscated, and one of their arms was broken. Even if the injury recovered, the broken arm could not be reattached, and their strength was not as good as when Yan Lingyu first came in. There is no exit here. If someone enters the first floor later, they can be used to score points. Yan Lingyu also wanted to let these people taste the feeling of being infinitely scored. He never thought that he was a good person. After this matter came to an end, Yan Lingyu walked towards the formation in front of him. This formation looked familiar. When he walked into it, the surrounding scenery changed. He came to a continuous mountain. Suddenly, the ground shook, and a mountain in the distance rushed towards him. Then, as if history was repeating itself, the mountain stopped and fell to the ground, and then a dull sound echoed between heaven and earth. "Why is it you again, kid? What a bummer." The other party was a black tortoise phantom, exactly the same as the one Yan Lingyu had seen in the four-sided soul-locking formation before. Seeing that the black tortoise phantom actually recognized him, Yan Lingyu was also surprised. "Senior Xuanwu," he saluted respectfully with his fists clasped. At this time, Yan Lingyu was also full of doubts and interest, wondering if he could ask something from the Xuanwu phantom. Yan Lingyu came to Xuanwu and took out a jar of good wine from the storage bag. The aroma of wine instantly filled the air. It is said that many mythical beasts like wine, especially those who love to sleep and are lazy like Xuanwu. Where does the spiritual wine come from? A certain kin's treasure bag? Sure enough, the Xuanwu phantom shrugged his nose and opened his eyes. Chapter 66, The Lineage of the Talisman Array, the Five Elements Heart Seal. In the small world, Yan Lingyu and the shadow of the Xuanwu beast talked for a long time. This allowed the former to understand the general situation of this place. The Zhenming sect was indeed a great sect in ancient times, and had extremely terrifying attainments in the art of formation. Even a beast like the Xuanwu body had to come from the North Sea to ask it to help refine the formation. This is also the reason why the shadows of the four great beasts stayed in the Zhenming sect. They successively donated a stream of blood and turned into beasts to watch the formation, mainly to repay this favor. The Zhenming sect has a total of 8 veins, and the Fuzhendao is one of them. Although the Fuzhendao is not the most powerful of the 8 veins, it has the strongest average strength. This is related to the formation it practices. The Fuzhendao mainly studies how to shrink the formation into a small room to get rid of the disadvantages of the original formation being large and bulky, and difficult to carry. Of course, this is what the entire Zhenming sect is doing. They are very strong in positional warfare, but very weak in encounter warfare. They want to make the sect's own combat power stronger. For example, the body formation method wants to imprint the formation on the body of the cultivator, which is equivalent to giving the cultivator a small spiritual body to enhance the combat power of the body. However, none of these are as good as the Fuzhendao. With the rise of the Fuzhendao and its emergence, the Zhenming sect also embarked on a glorious path, because their identity is no longer a tool to assist others in setting up formations, but a sect with good combat power. Therefore, the Fuzhendao is said to be the main lineage in the Zhenming sect. However, the conditions for accepting disciples in this lineage are extremely strict and harsh. Only those below the foundation building stage are accepted, and they must go through layers of selection before they can become disciples. There are only about 5 people in each generation of the Fuzhendao, which shows the difficulty of entry. Even in the later period, there was a generation gap. 30,000 years ago, dozens of elders and disciples of the Fuzhendao suddenly disappeared strangely, which shocked the entire Zhenming sect. They sent people to search, but to no avail. At that time, the Zhenming sect could no longer do without the Fuzhendao. Therefore, its high-level forces could only use the inheritance of the Fuzhendao to try to recruit new Fuzhendao disciples. As a result, there were teleportation arrays buried in various places in the Dacian dynasty. However, before the new Fuzhendao was established, the Zhenming sect began to wither, and only those external arrays were left working alone, constantly sucking in key training monks and transmitting them here for selection. However, Yan Lingyu's situation was a bit special. The selection site in Kaishiling was not opened, and King Hanner only knew that there was a 4-sided soul-locking array and a ground-burning fire spirit evil, but did not know that this was an inheritance. They rashly activated the array, causing the array to mutate, and the strength of the 4 great beasts was enhanced. Normally, the phantom of the beast in the 4-sided soul-locking array is only the strength of the 8th or 9th level of key training. After all, it is only the first test and will not be too powerful. The phantom of the beast that Yan Lingyu saw now should be close to the foundation building existence. When the Zuanwu beast said this, Yan Lingyu was also ashamed, not knowing whether it was a blessing or a curse. Boy, with your strength, it will be no problem to break through to the third level. The Zuanwu shadow sucked the last ounce of wine in the wine jar into the dragon's mouth, and then said lightly. Oh, Yan Lingyu was delighted when he heard this. He knew that this selection test only had 3 levels in total. If he could reach the third level, wouldn't he be able to obtain the strongest combat power of the talisman array? Then, the Zuanwu's green eyes swept him and said, but you can't get a complete inheritance, huh? Seeing that you are a young man, I warn you that when you reach the third level, you must not touch those inheritances, and it's better to leave directly. After saying this, the Zuanwu beast shadow fell silent, perhaps because it saw that Yan Lingyu had run out of wine. After hearing this, the latter fell into deep thought. Yan Lingyu still believed what the Zuanwu shadow said. But the other party does not know all of his situation, such as he can be reincarnated, so he may make a wrong judgment. Even if there is danger and he loses his life, as long as Yan Lingyu obtains the inheritance and waits for the next life to practice, it must be a gain. I am afraid that he will not get the inheritance and lose his life. After careful consideration, Yan Lingyu's idea is to go to the third floor to see the situation first. If it doesn't work, he will stop while he is ahead to avoid falling into a crisis. After all, he still has to send his 7th sister Yan Lingyu back first. Moreover, people cannot be greedy. The rewards of the first and second floors can also have a huge development for the Yan family. Thinking of this, Yan Lingyu calmed down, saluted the Zuanwu virtual shadow, and passed the formation. After returning to the first floor hall, he noticed a few obscure eyes passing through him, and then they were withdrawn in great frustration. Yan Lingyu ignored the few key training monks who were missing arms. He followed the guidance of the formation here and entered a gray mist. There was a dim space inside. The space was not large, with 5 light balls floating above it. When the light faded, 5 different Dao seals were revealed. This Dao seal was a complete set from the gold heart to the earth heart. Then, the surroundings changed, like a starry sky, with countless meteors passing by. One of them kept approaching Yan Lingyu, and finally turned into a classic book, which fell into his hands. Fuang 5 Elements Dao Array. Opening it, it turned out that 5 kinds of heart Dao seals could be converted into this array. One heart Dao seal is very powerful. Combining 5 and forming an array, it should be even more powerful. This should be the inheritance reward of the first level. However, Yan Lingyu frowned and sighed in his heart. To practice this Fuang 5 Elements Dao Array, you must first learn all the 5 elements heart Dao seals. He has no talent in this area. Even if he got the wood heart Dao seal from Kinhainer, he still couldn't condense it completely. Even the fact that he could quickly cultivate the water heart Dao seal was still due to the light of Hengshui spirit body and spirit body source. Therefore, it was very difficult for Yan Lingyu to complete the Dao formation. I think this is also a test given by the Fujian Dao. Knowing that the possibility of successful practice was not high, Yan Lingyu still gritted his teeth and read it. He might not be able to learn it, but there might be someone in his family who had a talent for practicing formations. He forced himself to remember the Taoist formation method and share it with the family in the future. Even if it was to practice the 5 elements heart Dao seal, it was a good way to enhance the power of the clan. So, Yan Lingyu held his breath and concentrated his mind, slowly imprinting the things in his sea of consciousness. The inheritance of 1 level is given a total of 7 days. After 7 days, the gray mist around began to dissipate. Yan Lingyu did not return to the original hall, but came to a place under the blue and white sky, surrounded by endless grasslands, which did not look like a building at all. At the same time, what attracted him most was the white stairs in front of him. The stairs were very long and led straight to the sky. Many figures could be seen on them. The closest to him was a familiar woman. At this time, Yan Lingyu also noticed the appearance of her 9th brother. She kept waving at him on the stairs with a smile on her face. Chapter 67, Yan Lingyu's Talent, Mengzi from Wuzimen. At the bottom of the cloud ladder, Yan Lingyu saw his sister waving at him, so he also waved to her and quickly climbed the ladder towards his sister. Just now, he learned about the test of the 2nd floor. The end of the cloud ladder in front of him is the exit of the 2nd floor. After passing through, he can enter the 3rd floor and get the inheritance reward given by this floor. But this cloud ladder is different. Each step has the pressure of the law, and the pressure of each level is higher than the previous level. There are a total of 180,000 steps. From this, we can see how amazing the pressure of the law at the top is. In fact, this second level also has a formation similar to the first level. As long as you break through the formation, you can also enter the third level smoothly. According to the Zuanwu virtual shadow, this formation is not an obstacle to Yan Lingyu. As for why he did not choose the formation route, but took the stairs, it was mainly because Yan Lingyu was worried about Yan Lingyu. He wanted to try to help his sister remove some obstacles. Yan Lingyu thought in his heart, but his steps did not slow down. The pressure of the steps in front was too small and had almost no effect on him. Soon, the siblings were on the same staircase. Ninth brother, how is it going? How is the first level of inheritance? Seeing her cousin standing beside her, Yan Lingyu asked with a smile. The latter sighed and replied, I don't have the talent for this formation, so I haven't mastered much. Yan Lingyu's tone was somewhat helpless. He finally understood why Zuanwu thought that he would definitely not be able to inherit the talisman formation. He couldn't even master the most basic talisman formation seal of the first level, let alone other more advanced formations. Yan Lingyu, who had lived 3 lives, knew the importance of talent too well. If it weren't for cultivation recovery, it would be impossible for him to upgrade so quickly with his talent. Especially the excellent alchemy talent, which expressed the word talent vividly. People with good talent are easier to practice than those with poor talent. This is undeniable. Seeing her cousin looking a little depressed, Yan Lingyu smiled even more. She said jokingly, Ninth brother, you are good at alchemy and have a high level of cultivation. If you make outstanding progress in formation, how can others live? Seeing that you are so happy, do you have a good aptitude in formation? Yan Lingyu did not hide her shortcomings in response to her cousin's question. She pushed with her jade hand, and 5 small runes of different colors slowly floated out. This, Yan Lingyu was a little surprised, and then said with joy, 7th sister, you are really good. It took me 7 days to condense a wood heart deo seal. You took the same time as me, but you can refine all the 5 elements heart deo seals. Yan Lingyu raised her head to accept the former's praise. At this time, she was also very happy. She was finally useful. She was not a vase, and could contribute to her 9th brother and the family. Seeing the other party's rare smug look, Yan Lingyu secretly decided, he must find a way to send his sister to the 3rd floor. Maybe he can't get the inheritance of the talisman formation, but Yan Lingyu has a chance. With this thought, Yan Lingyu said, 7th sister, you walk slowly first and adapt to the pressure of each step. I'll go up to see the situation. Yes. The girl knew that there was a gap in strength between the two of them. The cousin could go further than her, so she didn't need to tie him to her side. Just as Yan Lingyu turned around and was about to start to go up, a short and fat man appeared in front of her and was looking at them. The short and fat man glanced at Yan Lingyu, then looked at Yan Lingyu, and suddenly said with a wretched face, isn't this a score machine? Why are you on the 2nd floor? Well, with your looks, I think you did some dirty tricks. If you had obeyed me at the beginning, you wouldn't, pa. Before the short and fat man finished speaking, a huge force pulled him away and he fell directly from a height of thousands of feet. Where did this stink bug come from? Yan Lingyu shouted coldly, and at the same time, he felt even more distressed for Yan Lingyu. In the past 5 years, how many humiliations had this woman with narrow shoulders suffered? He took out 2 magic weapons to protect the ladder, and then resolutely walked up. He already had a plan in his mind. Although the short and fat man suffered a critical hit, Yan Lingyu did not exert much effort at that time, so the man was only slightly injured and fell to the bottom of the stairs and needed to climb again. His rat-like eyes glared at the back of the person who attacked him, and cursed inwardly, where did you come from, wild boy, dare to hit me, if you have the guts, come down and fight me with real swords and guns. Seeing Yan Lingyu getting farther and farther away from him, the short and fat man said disdainfully, don't dare, huh? At the upper part of the cloud ladder, there was a handsome young man in a blue robe, frowning, thinking about something. This person was named Mengzi, the first person under the foundation building of the 5 Sons sect of Qingling County. This was his 2nd time climbing the cloud ladder. That's right, Mengzi had been to the 3rd floor and had successfully exited this trial site. But he didn't have the talent for formations, and hadn't obtained the true inheritance of the Fujian Dao. He was unwilling to leave last time, So he made clear preparations, and with the known information, he found another trial point and chose to come back. This place is unattended, which has both advantages and disadvantages. The advantage is that you can cheat, such as brushing up points to 10 points on the first floor. The disadvantage is even greater, because there are no exits on the first and second floors of the Fuzhendao Hall, so without the guidance of the Fuzhendao disciples, outsiders cannot exit from the first and second floors. Therefore, on this cloud ladder, I don't know how many key training monks who can't reach the top have been trapped to death, and some steps are even covered with the bones, which is shocking. As for giving up the cloud ladder and choosing to take the formation path, the difficulty of the second level formation is too different from that of the first level, and Mengzi has never seen anyone come out from there. Mengzi, didn't you go out? Mengzi, can you tell me what the reward for the third floor is? Mengzi, please take me out, I am willing to be your slave forever. There are many cultivators at the top of the ladder, no less than 500 people, which are accumulated over the years. Some people don't know how long they have been trapped. When they see Mengzi appear again, they are shocked. At the same time, as if they have grabbed a life-saving straw, they begin to ask and show goodwill. Mengzi just has a gloomy face. He is followed by several fellow disciples of the Five Sun sect. One of them is named Keihi. He is young and has the best talent in the sect's formation. When Mengzi told the upper level about this, the upper level of the Five Sun sect asked him to find a way to send Keihi to the third floor to practice the inheritance of the Fuzhendao. However, Keihi's cultivation is not enough, and he can only practice the 8th level of Ki. In fact, it is the best choice to wait for Keihi to practice to the 9th level of Ki before letting him enter the Fuzhendao Hall. But the opening of the trial point is a matter of chance, and the Wuzi sect cannot control it, so they can only send Keihi into it first. There are 3 levels. The first one is easy to deal with, just find someone to brush points. But the second level of the ladder is the biggest obstacle. Even if Mengzi and several fellow disciples racked their brains, they could only bring the weak Keihi to the 103,000 steps at most. There are still 5,000 steps, which is a threshold they can't cross no matter what. They can only wait for Keihi to break through the 9th level of Ki training, and see if there is any way. Therefore, Mengzi is very troubled at the moment and doesn't want to pay attention to others at all. The people around him also know what to do and dare not provoke the powerful Wuzi sect. Chapter 68. Easily reach the top, cheating method. Brother Meng, I can't hold on any longer. How about we go back a few steps and wait for me to practice and adapt before continuing to move forward? Keihi's timid voice came from the team. He was born very feminine, like a shy girl who just came out of the boudoir. Seeing this, Mengzi in front sighed and encouraged, Brother Kei, hold on a little, the pressure of the law on these steps is also good for you. The fact is that this second level seems to be rewarded at the top, but in fact, the pressure of the law is also a good thing to sharpen the body and polish the cultivation. The last time Mengzi came in, he made progress in cultivation through this pressure. Okay, Keihi glanced at his fellow disciples who were constantly sending him true energy, and nodded. Although he has completely mastered the first level of the 5 elements Heart Dao Seal, which can condense into formation to relieve pressure. But after all, he is the 8th level of Ki training, and should be trapped at about 90,000 steps. Keihi can reach this point, and the Wuziman can be said to have taken great pains. Before entering the ladder, Mengzi had thought of many ways. For example, using the Taoist technique of passing on power, she could transfer some of the mana of the other people in the Wuzi sect to Keihi, which would make him stronger. This is a good method, but it also has its drawbacks, that is, the 2 people who are passing on power cannot be too far apart. In other words, the gap between Mengzi and Keihi cannot exceed 10 steps, otherwise the power transmission will be interrupted. If the 2 are to be together, Mengzi cannot give all his mana to the other party, after all, he himself has to bear the pressure of the law. Therefore, this method has an upper limit. The Wuzi sect also thought about using elixirs or blood-burning techniques to instantly improve their strength. But these methods also ended in failure. They could make them climb thousands of steps, and when the effect of the medicine dissipated, they had to come down in disgrace. After repeated efforts, they finally gave up. Is that it? A trace of unwillingness flashed in Mengzi's eyes. It may take several years for Keihi to upgrade, and it may not be successful. The Wuzi sect spent so much effort to send them in, and they can't return empty-handed. It would be great if there was another expert to help, A total of 5 people from the Wuzi sect came in, and only 2 of them were capable of reaching the top. They sent a lot of mana to Kei, but it was still not enough. According to Meng Zi's estimation, if there was another expert like him, he should be able to send his junior brother up. Although he thought so in his heart, he knew that the possibility of this was not great. A cultivator of this level would have reached the top long ago, so how could he appear again? Even if he appeared again, he would come in a group like them. At this moment, there was a commotion behind the Wuzi sect. Make way, fellow Taoist, please make way. Meng Zi turned his head in confusion and saw a young man with extraordinary bearing coming up step by step from the back. This man's steps were particularly relaxed, as if the pressure of the law at the 100,000 steps had no effect on him at all. This calmness made everyone on the ladder know that he must be extraordinary. Therefore, the key training cultivators gathered at the back took the initiative to make way, and looked at the other party in a daze as he continued to walk up. Dao, please let me pass. Soon, the man came behind the Wuziman and spoke softly and warmly. Meng Zi's heart moved, and he signaled to Kei with his eyes. However, Kei did not understand what he meant, and just thought that he should make way for the strong man next to him. So, the man passed through them unimpeded. This made Meng Zi's face twitch. He wanted to ask this man for help, but he couldn't do it alone. Wouldn't it be inferior to others? He was the face of the Wuziman. So, he signaled to Kei, but he didn't expect that this junior brother was stupid and couldn't understand what Meng Zi meant. The senior brother wanted to speak, but it was too late. The young man had already walked a long way. This guy is walking too fast, Meng Zi thought in his heart, and at the same time, he set his eyes on the other party. Not only him, but all the Kilgan cultivators on the stairs were watching like this. They knew that this person would definitely reach the top, whether they were envious or jealous. They all looked at him. Gradually, the figure became smaller and smaller. Suddenly, Meng Zi frowned and murmured, "Doesn't this person feel the pressure yet?" The young man walked to about 105,000 steps without slowing down at all. This was beyond Meng Zi's expectations. Although he believed that he could easily reach the top, he would start to feel tired after reaching 105,000 steps, unconsciously running all his skills and slowing down. Meng Zi turned to look at his fellow disciples and asked, "Do you know this person?" He had been practicing in the formation for many years, and then he was busy preparing, so he was somewhat behind in the information from the outside world. At the same time, he had never seen this person before, so he thought he was not a new strong man in the Fuziendao Hall, but a newcomer from outside. He could not be a disciple of the upper sects, such as Hengshui sect and Taiyai sect. The formation of Xianming sect has a recognition function, and the upper sect skills are special, which can recognize him and reject and kill him at once. In Meng Zi's opinion, a genius like that person should be famous. Maybe he is from a family or force in the Central Plains. However, the other people from Wuzi sect shook their heads. "I don't know. There is no such person in Qingling County or the neighboring states and counties." Not only them, but also other monks who climbed the ladder were discussing the identity of the young man. The monks present came from various states and counties of the Dacian dynasty. They had a lot of experience, but no one could explain it clearly. At this moment, in full view of everyone, the figure had already walked to the top of the ladder. Yan Lingyu looked at the ancient and mysterious door in front of him. He only needed to push it open with his hand to complete the second level of the test and enter the third level. But he didn't do it, but recalled the scene that happened earlier in his mind. When the short and fat man flirted with Yan Lingyu didn't use his full strength, but the attack he launched could seriously injure the other party. However, at the moment when he knocked the short and fat man away, he clearly felt that the pressure of the law on him increased. Afterwards, Yan Lingyu asked his sister to try again, and was surprised to find that as long as he picked up Yan Lingyu and the latter's feet left the steps, the power of the law applied to the other party would be attributed to him. This means that Yan Lingyu can bear double the pressure himself in exchange for Yan Lingyu not being under pressure. This can also be considered a kind of cheating, but no one will come to discipline them now. After understanding this, Yan Lingyu decided to use this method to send his sister to the third floor. He walked to the highest point at this time, and also wanted to try the pressure at the highest point, and whether he could withstand it after it doubled. After practice, he has such strong magic power, and is driven by Hengshui spirit body and spirit body source. Although there is pressure, it is not great. Judging from this estimate, this should be feasible. A gleam of light flashed in Yan Lingyu's eyes. Then, he began to turn around and prepare to go back to pick up his sister. And his actions naturally attracted the attention of others. Mengzi, a group of key training monks. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 69, Turning Back and Going Down the Stairs to Pick Up the Seventh Sister. What does that fierce man want to do? I don't know. He doesn't even want the inheritance of the ancient great sect. Is his brain confused? On the stairs leading to the sky, there were constant exclamations of confusion. As Yan Lingyu turned around and went down the stairs, all the Kigan cultivators who witnessed all this felt incomprehensible at the first time. That person didn't want to enter the door? Didn't he want the inheritance of this Hunming sect? Was he disdainful? Or was there something else hidden? Everyone was guessing whether his actions had other hidden meanings. Yan Lingyu passed by 2 Kigan 9th level cultivators. At this time, the other party's forehead was sweating. It seemed that the pressure of the lot put a lot of pressure on them. It was difficult for them to speak. One of them reluctantly asked, "This Taoist friend, why did you pass by the door without entering? Did you find something unusual?" The other party looked nervous. They had finally climbed to such a high place. If there was any problem with the formation, wouldn't they return empty-handed? Yan Lingyu waved his hand and said, "Nothing unusual, I'm going down, it's just a personal matter." Personal matter? The other two were obviously surprised. What personal matter could be bigger than receiving the inheritance of Zhenming sect? Although they didn't understand, they were shocked. Sure enough, the gap between people is huge. The only inheritance in their eyes can be put in the back by others. This key training cultivator was somewhat impressed, admired the other party's strength and scheming. If they were at the highest point, they would have forgotten everything and broke into the back door. At the same time, they were even more confused. Who is this fierce man? Which high-level force does he belong to? Yan Lingyu didn't care about the thoughts of the people behind him, but continued to walk down. Passing by Mengzi of Wuziman again. This time Mengzi put away his arrogance and directly asked he to try to communicate with Yan Lingyu, and he didn't go, which seemed particularly arrogant. He took it humbly, clasped his fists and asked, "Fellow Taoist, can you help me? I am Mengzi from the Five Sons sect of Qingling County. Whether this matter succeeds or not, I will reward you handsomely." This time Yan Lingyu stopped. Five Sons sect? He seemed to have heard that this was a force with a giant and cultivator in charge. The strength would be much higher than that of the Hai family and Kongtong sect, not to mention the Yan family. At the same time, Qingling County is strategically located and is the only way for southern counties, such as Xiaonan County, to the Central Plains. If you can help, not to mention the reward, it would be a good ending to pull an ally. The inheritance here is a selection system. As long as the inheritance reaches the top, everyone can get it. Without me being first and you being second, you will not get the inheritance. They are not competitors. Therefore, Yan Lingyu was moved at this moment. But he still had to help his seventh sister first, so the matter of the Five Sons sect had to be put aside. He said with a smile, "Fellow Taoist Meng, I have long heard of your name. My surname is Yan, and my name is Lingyu. I can help you, but I have to go down first and then help you, okay, Yan Lingyu?" Mengzi recalled all the geniuses of various forces in his mind, but there was no such name. He thought it was a genius who had just emerged from the hidden world. With doubt, he replied, "Fellow Taoist Yan, please do your thing first. I am not in a hurry." As a representative of the Wuzi sect, Mengzi wanted to make friends with such a genius. Moreover, he was also interested in the power behind Yan Lingyu. It might be a hidden sect. Only in this way could he explain why the other party was so powerful. "See you later," Yan Lingyu said lightly, and then walked towards the bottom of the ladder. His conversation with the Wuzi sect was also heard by other Kigan cultivators. Although these people did not know Yan Lingyu's situation, they knew that the Wuzi sect wanted to send He up. The fact that the Wuzi sect asked Yan Lingyu to help with this meant that the latter had the ability to do so. For a moment, everyone had an idea in their mind: can this fierce man help them? The answer is yes. Therefore, when Yan Lingyu passed by, there would be shouts. "Fellow Taoist Yan, I am Du Yu from Changshan sect. If you can lend me a helping hand, I will reward you with a spiritual weapon, and you will always have the friendship of my Changshan sect, fellow Taoist Yan. My Tangba Yihuan sect is very good at the way of dual cultivation. If you can save me from this, I will. Yan Lingyu had some thoughts about this. Even if there are few ungrateful people in this large group of forces, the rest will also be a boost to the development of the Yan family. But if so many people all go out, his own limelight will be too big, and the Yan family is still weak, and there is no guarantee what other forces will think. In the end, Yan Lingyu gave up the impulse in his heart. If he could help, he would help those sects with better reputations. For example, Wu Ziman. Therefore, Yan Lingyu seemed indifferent to the enthusiasm around him. With his performance, no one would seek death. Even if he ignored them, the Kilgan cultivators would still make way. Climbing the middle and back of the ladder, the short and fat man finally climbed up from the lowest end. At this time, he saw Yan Lingyu alone, and he felt evil in his heart, and said faintly, "What? Your little lover ignored you? Get lost." Yan Lingyu also found that this man had a problem with his brain, and shouted, "I know your strength very well. Without the help of others, you are a waste. You beat that guy up, and you are still waiting for him to come down." The short and fat man smiled sinisterly, his eyes flashed with ferocity, and continued, "You have been abandoned. I will repay you for what that guy did to me." After he finished speaking, he laughed loudly, his body grew taller, and he instantly rose a few centimeters taller, with amazing momentum. Suddenly, the short and fat man's face changed, his expression was horrified, and he said incredulously, "No, are you serious?" He looked down and happened to see a familiar figure. It was the young man who had made him powerless to resist before. In an instant, his hair stood on end, and he shrank his body, trying to escape. However, it was too late. A dark green water belt extended from a high place and hit him hard. The short and fat man only felt the pressure of the law, which was nothing in front of this attack. In an instant, he was seriously injured and could not get up again. Then the Hengshui Yinlei twitched again. Yan Lingyu slowly came down from the upper floor, pushed the bones down, and came to the side of the clan sister. "Seventh sister, come, that method works, I will send you up now." Then, Yan Lingyu leaned over and half squatted, stretched out his arms, and signaled the other party to lean on him. Yan Lingyu's pretty face was slightly red, and she lay on her side, and was picked up by her clan brother. Her feet left the ground, and she felt the pressure on her body suddenly reduced, so she whispered, "Ninth brother, you have worked hard. If you feel pressure, don't show off, don't worry. Seventh sister, I will save it." Feeling the changes brought about by the pressure of the law, Yan Lingyu's eyes condensed, and the magic power flowed, and she began to walk up again. This time, his steps were even slower. As Yan Lingyu walked into the side of the Kilgan practitioners holding his sister in his arms, the sensation he caused was unprecedented. Chapter 70, Take it to the third floor and earn rewards. The Kilgan cultivators on the ladder had different guesses about Yan Lingyu going upstream. But they couldn't figure out that Yan Lingyu would carry a woman up after going down. When his figure appeared in everyone's sight again, they were left with envy and shock. Will this fierce man carry that woman all the way to the top? I know that woman. Isn't she Yan Lingyu from the first level? They both have the surname Yan. Are they siblings? No matter what their relationship is, if fellow Taoist Yan can send one person up, he can send others up. Now I should think about how to get him to help me. Is this guy really a Kilgan cultivator? Why is he different from me? The other's admiration was beyond words. Yan Lingyu continued to go up, and this time he received more requests. Before, others still doubted his strength, but as long as they saw this scene, everyone dispelled their doubts. When passing by the Wuziman again, Yan Lingyu smiled back and said, "I will send my sister up and come back to help you." Mengzi was stunned. Every time he saw Yan Lingyu, his inner cognition was broken. Mengzi knew the pressure from above. By the last few steps, it had exceeded 1,000 pounds. It was no longer something that could be simply carried by the body and magic power. Ordinary cultivators would be crushed into meat paste in an instant. At the same time, Mengzi also understood what it meant to carry a person forward. At this time, Yan Lingyu was bearing twice the pressure. This was not a question of 1 + 1 = 2. As we all know, everything has its limits. Just like the last straw that broke the camel's back, as long as the limit is exceeded, even a little pressure can make people unbearable. Mengzi also guessed the reason why Yan Lingyu walked through the door before without entering. It seemed that he was testing the highest pressure to send someone up and verify whether he could withstand double the load. His current actions showed that he had absolute confidence in himself. After all, he could not put someone down halfway, otherwise the person originally carried would instantly suffer the pressure of the law that he could not resist. Mengzi sighed that he had underestimated the other party again. Originally, he thought that there was not much difference between him and the other party, but now it seems that Yan Lingyu's strength is 50% higher than his. At the same time, Mengzi also breathed a sigh of relief. With this person, he should be able to enter the third floor smoothly. Yan Lingyu held the seventh sister and continued to go up. When he reached the 106,000th step, he felt that his steps were heavy. He unconsciously activated the spiritual body source and Hengshui spiritual body. At the same time, Hengshui Yinlei was close to his body surface, making his body more tenacious. In this way, the pressure he felt was reduced a lot. Ninth brother, are you okay? Yan Lingyu shook her head and comforted him, and whispered back, seventh sister, I regret sending you up directly now. Why? Yan Lingyu was a little curious. This ladder is a test, but it is also a reward. It can constantly polish the body and true ki of the cultivator, making the body more solid and the true ki more condensed. It is a good place for cultivation. It is also a good thing for cultivators to hone their skills on this ladder. Yan Lingyu felt that his cultivation level, which had just been broken through, was loose again. This should be powered by rapid recovery of cultivation level. Originally, in the cave of Qi Shuling, he had just broken through to the 9th level of Qi training. Then, he and King Hainer continued to fight in the gap of time and space to consolidate his cultivation. Now, with the help of the pressure of the law, he has made another step forward. At this rate, when Yan Lingyu returns to the Yan family and retreats for a few months, he will be able to try to break through to the foundation building stage. After hearing the words of his cousin, Yan Lingyu was free and easy, saying, this is for you. If you can go up and down this ladder unimpeded, the power of the law will help you obviously. For someone like me who is stuck halfway, even if the power of the law can make me transform, it will be a long process. The words of the cousin made Yan Lingyu fall into deep thought. He found that he was still looking at himself with the same eyes. Perhaps it was the influence of the memory of his previous life that made his thoughts still conservative. Yan Lingyu did not really realize that he was different from other cultivators. Even some of the Xianjiao have a big gap with him. It seems that I have to change my mindset, Yan Lingyu thought to himself. Soon, the two came to the virtual door. Gently pushed the door automatically opened. Inside was a dark fog, and there was a strange light coming out, an ancient and mysterious atmosphere, blowing in the face. Yan Lingyu took a deep look at his cousin, then jumped and took the lead to enter. At the same time, the stairs below found a violent agitation. Because Yan Lingyu really did it. He can really send ordinary cultivators to the third floor. For a while, the crowd was excited. And Yan Lingyu himself did look gloomy. He felt that there was something inside the door that kept attracting him, and the door was not closed yet, still waiting for him to enter. I have been marked by the formation and can't stay outside for too long. This was his first feeling. If he delayed for a long time, he might be resisted by the third floor and could never enter the third floor again. Yan Lingyu secretly thought it was a pity, because there was not much time left for him to make extra money. Without time to think, he turned and went down, stepped on the water 8 steps, and rushed towards the Wuzi gate at a speed that was invisible to the naked eye. At the same time, he shouted, the formation is different. I can take 2 more people to the third floor at most. As for who to take, it depends on your rewards. As he spoke, he came to Mengzi. With Yan Lingyu's eyes, he naturally saw that Kei, a thin boy, should not be here. I think this guy is the person entrusted by the Wuzi gate. Mengzi clasped his fists, pushed Kei behind him to the front, and handed out a bulging storage bag, saying, thank you, Brother Yan. Please send junior brother Kei to the third floor. Yan Lingyu nodded, like an eagle catching a chick, pinched the feminine boy, and turned around. At the same time, the surrounding bidding had begun. For the sake of inheritance and a way out, these key training monks did not care. Fellow Taoist Yan, I will offer 2 low-grade spiritual tools, and I will swear a heavenly oath. Fellow Taoist Yan, I will offer a bottle of 1-grade holy bone jade marrow pill, please take me up. Fellow Taoist Yan, I will offer a group of yellow-grade evil spirits. If I succeed in getting out, I will be by Liancheng, and I am willing to help you make a puppet." Fellow Taoist Yan Lingyu kept running, and after throwing Kai into the ancient gate, he went down again. While he was resisting the pressure of the law, he was also paying attention to those key training monks. For example, Bai Liancheng, from the sound of his name, he should be from the Bai Lian family in Shangrao County. This is a family famous for making puppets, and the yellow great evil spirit he gave is also a rare treasure. Things like heaven and earth evil spirits, naturally, the more the better. In addition to Bai Liancheng, there is another person who can also offer a top-level price. Cheng Zihan from the Yellow Leaf sect. He can take out a water-based spiritual tool and a water-based 1-grade Taoist technique. These are too suitable for Yan Lingyu, and he can't help but be tempted. Boom, the door closed tightly, separating the second and third floors. Chapter 71, Inheritance Rewards, Counting the Harvest. Boom, the door behind Yan Lingyu closed tightly, and the surroundings became illusory. The people he brought in disappeared one after another. He was left alone, standing in this mysterious and dark void. Gradually, the surrounding environment changed, and a sense of familiarity arose. Just like when he received the inheritance reward on the first level, the scenery in front of him turned into an endless galaxy. It was more vast and brighter than the first level. This time, there were no 5 heart seals floating above his head, and no comets came towards him. Yan Lingyu felt that the stars in the darkness were constantly calling him. In the dark, he had a feeling of wanting to touch them. As long as he touched these stars, they would turn into a formation for the former to practice. However, Yan Lingyu could only choose one. So he immersed himself in thinking and felt the call of those stars with all his heart. Sometimes, cultivation is about fate. After a moment, Yan Lingyu suddenly opened his eyes and pointed to a group of unique stars in the nebula, shining with dazzling white light. Then, the star flew towards him happily, drawing a beautiful arc in the starry sky. Small 5 Divine Sword Talisman Formation. The stars transformed into a classic book. Seeing the name of this talisman formation, Yan Lingyu was delighted and read it carefully. The 5 gods correspond to the 5 internal organs, namely the heart, liver, spleen, lungs, and kidneys. The 5 internal organs produce and store the essence, ki, blood, body fluids and spirit of the human body, so they are also called the 5 internal organ gods. Among them, the heart belongs to fire in the 5 elements, which is the yang and the yang. The lungs belong to gold, which is the yin and the yang. The spleen belongs to earth, which is the most yin in the yin. The liver belongs to wood, which is the yang and the yin. The kidneys belong to water, which is the yin and the yin. The way of the 5 internal organs secretly connects the 5 elements and is partial to yin and yang. And this small 5 divine sword talisman formation is based on the 5 internal organs of the cultivator, constructing 5 divine internal organ sword talismans. These sword talismans secretly match the meridians of the human body, and are interconnected to form a large formation. According to the description in the classics, if this sword talisman formation is cultivated to the extreme, the 5 gods can unite and summon the sword immortals on earth. Yan Lingyu didn't know whether this was true or not, but he was sure of one thing: this formation was definitely above the upper grade of the Zhuan level. It was even more powerful than his Zhuangxi Shui Mianju. The price of the powerful small 5 divine sword talisman formation was that it was extremely difficult to practice. Not to mention the talent for the talisman formation, it also required a unique talent in the sword path, otherwise it would be impossible to achieve great success in life. Judging from Yan Lingyu's current situation, he couldn't think of fully mastering it. But he still thought that this talisman formation was very suitable for him, because he had already known from the prompts given by the system before that he would have a natural sword body in his next life. At that time, he was naturally gifted in the sword path, and it would not be difficult for him to cultivate a sword formation. Therefore, Yan Lingyu began to memorize this set of sword formations and even took out a pen and ink to copy it. In the following time, he chose to practice one of the sword talismans, called the Kidney Water Sword Talisman. This sword talisman is similar to the Shuxin Daoyin in general, and it must be of the same lineage. With the help of the Hengshui spirit body, Yan Lingyu learned it very quickly, and it only took 3 days. At this moment, his sea of consciousness was particularly lively, with 3 Shuxin Daoyings shining against each other, and a sharp light blue sword talisman was like a swordsman, standing alone and proud. There were still 4 days left, and Yan Lingyu decided to strike while the iron was hot and see if he could build a few more sword talismans. As time passed, Yan Lingyu, who had made no progress in practicing the formation, finally gave up. He took out a few storage bags and prepared to count the rewards he had received for helping various forces reach the top. Bai Lian Chang of the Balian family gave a ball of green gas, which was the Mugang evil spirit. In his previous life, Yan Lingyu had seen evil spirits at an auction, and a ball of yellow-level evil spirit could be auctioned for more than 50,000 spirit stones. That was like a sky-high price for the Yan family at that time. Moreover, Yan Lingyu also gave up the idea of advancing to the golden core at that time, just watching other foundation-building cultivators quarreling constantly. It can be seen that the evil spirit is particularly important to them. Then, Yan Lingyu remembered the one-level evil spirit promised by the Princess Mansion. At the beginning, he was the first person to complete the killing of the Phantom of the Divine Beast, so he had this reward. He hoped that it was a water-based evil spirit, so Yan Lingyu would not have to worry about finding the evil spirit. At this moment, the wooden evil spirit in his hand was not compatible with it, so it could only be left in the clan to see if there would be descendants who could advance to the golden core and use it. Putting away the evil spirit, Yan Lingyu opened another storage bag. This storage bag came from Cheng Zihan of the Yellow Pages sect. It contained a water-based spiritual weapon and a water-based one-level Taoist technique. Since the Heaoyu Dan Kongjian was bitten by the void fish, Yan Lingyu lost a handy spiritual weapon. This is also the reason why he chose Cheng Zihan when others offered a higher price. The spiritual weapon is called the Mountain and River Painting Ink Umbrella. It is black and white, slightly longer than his arm, and exudes a strong vapor and ink. Yan Lingyu refined it. Although it cannot exert its power here, Yan Lingyu knows that this treasure umbrella can be transformed into mountains and rivers to suppress external objects. It is a top-level low-grade spiritual weapon that can attack and defend. The original Heaoyu Dan Kongjian can only be sold for 8,000 spiritual stones at most, and this treasure umbrella should be worth tens of thousands. Then Yan Lingyu took out a classic from the storage bag, Hidden Spirit Finger. The cultivator who practices it can burst out strange power from the 5 fingers. Ordinary people can hardly find the traces of the spiritual finger, and the penetrating power is very strong. A cultivator of the same level will be seriously injured if he is hit by it. This Taoist technique reminded Yan Lingyu of the Hai family's refining soul-suppressing nail. He was very envious of this Taoist technique at that time. This kind of attack technique is a must-have treasure technique for killing people and seizing treasures. Unexpectedly, he can also get one now, and gain a lot. Yan Lingyu put away the classics and prepared to try to practice after returning to the clan. Right now, it was more important to pass the inheritance trial. After exhaling, he looked at the last storage bag. This was obtained from the Wuziman. There were no extremely precious items in it, mostly fragmentary elixirs and classics. This should be a temporary collection of the Wuziman. A rough estimate is about 70,000 spiritual stones, which is also a fortune. These children of big forces are rich. 70,000 spiritual stones, for the entire Yan family before, is like a sky-high price. Unless you sell everything you have, you can't afford it. But the other party has several key training cultivators. Even if the Wuziman came prepared, you can see the gap between the family backgrounds of the two sides. But Yan Lingyu was still satisfied with this batch of spiritual medicines and cultivation manuals. The Yan family is rising, and what they really lack is this kind of items. At this time, Yan Lingyu's mind kept popping up. He considered building a merit hall after returning to the clan, allowing the clan members to exchange merit points for clan resources. Before, the Yan family was poor and didn't do these things. The resource allocation model within the family still had flaws. As the family grew, this merit hall that could unite the family's hearts was indispensable. Before, the family was weak and could not gather together, so it might fail. Now that the Yan family has the princess's mansion behind them, they can develop with peace of mind. Such a comfortable life may cultivate a bad atmosphere within the family. Yan Lingyu still has to consider these. Chapter 72 3 Inheritance Runes, Decisive Choice to Give Up. The inheritance time ended quickly. Yan Lingyu was teleported to hall. The hall was spacious and bright, magnificent, with various unique inscriptions on the surrounding Cheyenne long pillars. The third floor of the Feudao Hall was obviously different from the first 2 floors, and more dignified. The most eye-catching thing was the 3 huge runes suspended in the center of the hall. One was celestial and extraordinary, one was simple and restrained, extraordinary. One was black and difficult to look directly at. As soon as he entered, Yan Lingyu's mind was attracted by these 3 runes. It seemed that there was a magic power calling him. Yan Lingyu used his luck to nourish his mind and completely cleared the weirdness in his heart. Then he looked around. At this time, figures appeared around him one after another. Yan Lingyan, Kei, Bai Liancheng, Cheng Zihan, Meng Zi and other disciples of the Five Sons sect appeared one after another. With Yan Lingyu personally sending Kei to the 3rd floor, the pressure on the Wuzi sect was greatly reduced. 2 of them were able to enter the 3rd floor on their own, and the remaining 2 were also experts in the 9th level of key training. With the help of their disciples, they also entered with difficulty. In addition to this latecomer, there were several figures under those inscriptions, which were probably the cultivators who had entered the 3rd floor before. But their situation did not look right. Some were as gloomy as old men, while others were deeply trapped in the madness and rage of the Heart Demon Gang. They seemed to be in another world, and did not seem to be refining the inheritance at all. Brother Yan, Meng Zi stepped forward to express his gratitude again. Yan Lingyu returned the gift, and then asked in confusion, "Brother Meng has been here before, do you know what happened to those people?" As soon as he finished speaking, the others present also pricked up their ears. Meng Zi pondered for a while and said, "The inheritance of this lineage of talismans and formations is indeed strange. I was also deeply trapped at the beginning. Fortunately, I was awakened by the protective spiritual weapon and was able to get out of the predicament." Hearing this, everyone was shocked. Someone said, "Is the inheritance a trap?" Meng Zi shook his head and said, "Not really. You can only leave after obtaining the complete inheritance, otherwise you will be trapped in it, but you can be awakened by others. I think this Henming sect is not a demon sect and has no intention of harming people. It's just that its sect has declined and this place has lost the care of the elders, resulting in no one awakening the cultivators who came here to obtain the inheritance later." Hearing this, everyone breathed a sigh of relief. At this time, Bai Liancheng of the Bailan puppet family walked out. His face was ordinary, but his eyes were particularly bright. He said, "In fact, among the 8 veins of this Henming sect, 6 veins have been preserved, including the Fuzz and Dao. For example, the Wang family of Jizhao, their methods are in line with the Fuzz and Dao. Their ancestors must have come to this hall and brought the inheritance out." Meng Zi nodded and added, "Not only him, but also the princess of Ruzian County, who has a Wanho Fuzzian, which is obviously the work of Fuzz and Dao. She must have obtained the inheritance." The words of the 2 people showed that there was no problem with the inheritance itself, and the problem was still with the practitioners. Yan Lingyu, who was listening to the 2 people talking, muttered in his heart. He had never heard of the information the other party said before. If you don't try to find out more about materials like news, you will never know, because no one will tell you, and if you don't know the information, you will be inferior to others. It seems that the Yan family also needs to cultivate an intelligence organization, and it must be spread out to other states and counties. Yan Lingyu thought to himself, "Junior brother K, go and try. I'm here. If anything goes wrong with you, I'll wake you up." Meng Zi turned around and said to Kei, "It's easy to wake up someone like Kei who can protect the Dao from the beginning. The other cultivators who are deeply trapped under the huge rune are already too deep, and it's almost impossible to wake them up." "Yes, senior brother." Kei's face became serious. He walked under the huge rune, sat cross-legged, closed his eyes and concentrated. A strange light hid him, and it was extraordinary for a while. Soon, as he entered into meditation, circles of miniature inscriptions floated around him. As expected of junior brother K, he really has a unique talent in the art of formation. He caused a strange phenomenon so quickly. I hope he can successfully bring back the inheritance for the sect. Meng Zi was excited when she saw this. Kei's progress also gave others confidence. Other disciples of the Five Sons sect were also eager to try, and they successively proposed to try to inherit the inheritance. Meng Zi naturally would not disagree, but he also gave some advice. "Remember, you must suppress your greed, and try with the attitude that you will not succeed. Don't get too stuck in it, otherwise you can't wake up." After all, Meng Zi is just a key training cultivator, and his vision is not as good as the elder of Fuzz and Dao. He can still save ordinary abnormalities, but if he is really stuck, he can't save him. Kei has a talent for formations, so he is relieved, but other disciples don't have it, so they still have to be careful. "Yes, brother Meng." Several people joined the queue.
Then, Chang Ziheng and Bai Lian Chang couldn't hold back their emotions and asked the former to protect them. From the rewards they received before, they found that Fuzz Hendao was powerful, and the inheritance must be of great help to them. As for why they didn't choose Yan Lingyu, in their opinion, the famous Wu Ziman was more trustworthy. Although Yan Lingyu had helped them before, they also provided rewards, and the two parties were just exchanging interests. On the contrary, Yan Lingyu had a deeper relationship with the people of Wu Ziman. Ninth brother, Yan Lingyu came forward and looked at Yan Lingyu firmly. "Don't worry, I'll take care of you, you will be fine. Bringing this inheritance back will also be a great achievement for the family," the latter said. Yan Lingyu smiled and began to practice the inheritance. Yan Lingyu watched the other party leave his side, and then heard a voice in his ear. "Brother Yan, don't you want to try? With your ability, there may be a chance, and the probability of you awakening yourself is also very high," Meng Zi asked curiously. But Yan Lingyu shook his head and said, "No, I know my own weight, and this luck is not for me." From the inheritance of the first and second levels, Yan Lingyu knew how much talent he had in formations. He couldn't learn those, let alone the final inheritance in front of him. Meng Zi also had experience, didn't he choose to give up? Yan Lingyu's inheritance was the same as his own inheritance. Moreover, Senior Zuan Wu had also pointed out that he should not try to inherit, which made him feel that this matter was not as simple as it seemed, and there might be other risks hidden. Besides, he didn't trust Meng Zi. What if, when he accepts the inheritance, the other party sees that the situation is not right and directly attacks, and then there will be no room for resistance? Yan Lingyu and Bai Lian Chang are different. The latter does not completely believe in the Five Sun sect, but they dare to gamble because the benefits of obtaining the inheritance are too great. It is a broad road that leads directly to the refining of the void. Maybe this is their only chance in this life. Cultivating immortals is to go against the will of heaven, to fight against heaven and people. Who can resist this temptation? But Yan Lingyu has a system, and his future path must be broad. He is not afraid that the inheritance here will kill him directly, but he is afraid that he will not get the inheritance and will be in a dilemma for hundreds of years, wasting his time. On the side, Meng Zi, who listened to Yan Lingyu's answer, admired the character shown by the former. He did not expect Yan Lingyu to give up so decisively. Even he himself had the budding desire to try a second time in his heart. From the other party's words, Meng Zi saw confidence, the kind of pride that can become an immortal alone even without a high-level inheritance. Meng Zi couldn't help but feel a little ashamed. He secretly thought that there was a reason why the other party was so powerful. Chapter 73, The Ancient Formation is for Protection, and Lingyan is now inherited. Seventh sister, you need to wake up after receiving the inheritance. Don't get up immediately. You also pretend to be abnormal. I will wake you up. Yan Lingyan, who had just walked under the three huge runes, suddenly heard Yan Lingyu's voice in her heart. She understood the situation instantly. Things like obtaining inheritance still have to be done secretly. Then, she closed her eyes and concentrated her breath, immersed in the selfless mind. A soft beam of light fell on her from above. The next moment, Yan Lingyu seemed to be in an ancient desert, surrounded by endless dead silence. In her vision, there were occasional yellow trees and dry water, a desolate scene. She didn't know what this meant, and could only blindly look for the inheritance. After Yan Lingyu climbed over several barren mountains in succession, the surrounding scene finally changed. On a clear spring, 3 runes floated, and their style was exactly the same as the runes on the 3rd floor of the hall. The only difference was that when she noticed these runes, the runes began to change, as if they turned into small inscriptions, constantly arranging and combining. Each rune was changing endlessly. Then, a figure appeared under each of the 3 runes. One had a long beard, but a young face and white hair, holding a dustpan in his hand, and wearing a white robe, like a god descending to the world. One was ordinary, like an old man in a gray robe in the market, with wrinkles on his face, but he gave people a kind feeling and made people respect him. The last person was swept by black air all over his body, making it impossible to see his appearance, but the spiritual pressure emanating from him made people want to retreat. These 3 people were the 3 ancestors of the Fuzz and Dao of the Zhenming sect, and they represented the 3 factions of the Fuzz and Dao. The 3 ancestors attracted a huge rune above and fell into their hands. After the dazzling light flashed, the shrunken rune changed faster, and ordinary people could only see a blur, and had no idea that it was a change from the Fuzzian. Youngsters, what can you see from the fuzzy in our hands? The magnificent voice echoed in this world. Yan Lingyu unconsciously looked at the changes in the hands of the three people. She first looked at the figure in white robes. At a glance, the changing runes were like a bottomless abyss, dragging her into the endless darkness, and she almost got lost. Yan Lingyu quickly closed her eyes, adjusted her direction, and opened them again, feeling extremely scared. She had a hunch that as long as she could see clearly what the other party was holding, she would be able to obtain the true inheritance of the rune array. But it was extremely dangerous and it was very easy to get lost. The three ancestors were standing side by side. When she turned her head, she saw the peaceful old man in gray robes. The other party gave Yan Lingyu a hint of warmth. However, the changing rune array in his hand was not as attractive as the previous one. It was also simple and indifferent like himself, as if it was a building block that kept changing its form. Building blocks, Yan Lingyu was stunned. Is this the answer? Soon, she ruled out this possibility. Because she found something else in the building blocks. This is not a simple building block, it is more like a collection of small formations, so it looks like a building block. These small formations were still in operation, and Yan Lingyu could deeply feel the various terrifying powers through the changes in them. The Daozu was actually hiding something more exaggerated under the plainness, but it did not give people a sense of discomfort. Gradually, Yan Lingyu's pupils shrank slightly, and she stared at the rune closely. She seemed to see the handwriting. Although the various small formations in the rune were constantly moving and changing, the outline of their combination actually showed two words faintly. Guard, Yan Lingyu murmured unconsciously. As soon as she finished speaking, the gray-robed old man standing in the middle showed a relieved smile. Then, the other two figures around him turned into bubbles and disappeared, and the rune-building blocks in his hand began to grow larger and materialize. The situation around Yan Lingyu changed again. The clear spring disappeared, and she seemed to travel through time and came to the ancient times. That was when the human race was just born. At the beginning of the birth of the human race, it was still extremely weak and was attacked by various monsters from time to time. In order to survive, the ancient human race brainstormed and thought of a solution. So three things appeared. Humans need tools and resistance, so refining appeared. Humans need healing and comfort, so refining alchemy appeared. Humans need protection and homes, so array appeared. Refining tools, refining alchemy, array, these earliest immortal cultivation skills, were born in this way. Among them, the meaning of protection in the array is what the ancestor of the rune array is most valued. He believes that the array can only play its greatest power if it takes protection as the starting point and coincides with the ancient human thought. And Yan Lingyu's own wish is to protect the tribe and bless the family, not to compete for the first place, or to snatch and kill. She is pure. In addition, she does have a good talent in the array, so she can see the word protection clearly. Under Yan Lingyu's gaze, the gray-robed ancestor turned into stars, and together with a rune array seal, floated towards the former. A ray of spiritual light fell. Yan Lingyu's mind was clear, and there seemed to be countless inscriptions and arrays arranged in the sea of consciousness. It would take her a lot of effort to digest all of this. On the other side, He from Wuziman also came to the same place. At the same time, he recalled Meng Zi's previous instructions. Meng Zi had been here before, so he had naturally seen the three ancestors of the Fuzz and Dao and their words. Although he did not get the inheritance in the end, he had a lot of insights in his heart. He said to Kei, focus on one inheritance, don't look around, eliminate the black key old man, and choose the immortal and human veins. Kei remembered his senior brother's words deeply, so he first looked at the fuzzy in the hands of the white-robed ancestor. He could also see that this was a strange formation composed of runes. Even at this moment, with his talent for formations, he could actually learn some knowledge and skills. However, when he tried to call out a few nouns, the white-robed ancestor did not respond, and there was no change around. This made Kei know that he did not give up the correct answer. And some of the formations he saw were not really inherited. I don't know how long I stared at it. But I still didn't find it, and he was a little unwilling. Subconsciously looking at the next door, Kei saw a building block. He was unconsciously attracted to it. At the same time, he also found that the runes in the hands of the two ancestors were indeed connected. This made Kei suspicious. He looked at the two runes and did not see any risks as Brother Meng Zi said. Kei suddenly realized that Meng Zi himself had not obtained the inheritance, and he also had no talent in the formation. The truth said by the latter was not the truth, and it might be wrong. After thinking about it, he felt that he had to rely on his own ideas to act. He originally found that the two paths of immortals were connected, so was there any connection between the last demon path? He couldn't suppress his doubts and wanted to find out. He wanted this inheritance too much? Originally, although he had some status in the Wuzi sect, he was also called here and there. Because of the news of the inheritance of the rune formation brought by Mengzi, his identity changed dramatically. The sect poured all its resources into him, and the uncle and grandfather who had been waiting for him at any time also changed their attitude. This made him realize the benefits of rising status. He finally looked at the black-robed figure. In an instant, the world was spinning in his eyes. In the third-floor hall, Mengzi suddenly noticed something strange. Not good, junior brother K. Chapter 74, The inheritance is complete, the siblings return to the tribe. Inside the hall, a strange light was emanating from Kei's body. 3 strange inscriptions of white, gray and black kept spinning on his chest. His face was also changing, sometimes heavy, sometimes gloomy, and his eyeballs kept jumping under his eyelids. And the true energy overflowing from Kei was also chaotic. Mengzi saw that the situation was not right, and before she could think too much, she pinched several spells in her hand and cast them one after another. It was as if a black and white chessboard appeared in the void, and the chess pieces on the board kept shaking, then bounced up and shot towards the various acupuncture points on Kei's body. The latter's hit part shone with a thin and long light, and then the light spread around his body. Then, Kei's tightly locked brows were slightly raised, and his momentum, like a deflated ball, slumped down, was supported by Mengzi, and then slowly opened his eyes. At this moment, under the familiar face, the weak Kei felt a little guilty, regretting that he did not follow the instructions of his senior brother, which eventually led to the failure of accepting the inheritance, and all the hard work of the sect was wasted. He has already received the rejection brought by the hall, and it is impossible for him to continue to accept the inheritance. And if he wants to start over, he has to find another teleportation array, return here, and continue to climb from the first level. The Five Sons sect may no longer have the luck to help him do this. Kei looked extremely depressed and dejected. Mengzi had something in mind, and finally sighed, patted the former on the shoulder and said, "Failure is failure, after all. This is the most important and profound inheritance in the ancient great sect Xianming sect. In fact, the Five Sons sect has been prepared for failure. But when it really faces failure, it will still feel a pity." Mengzi stood up and looked at the figures of the other disciples. Kei ended in failure, maybe others will have unexpected gains. At the same time, he also cheered up at this moment, in case they encounter accidents like Kei, and must be awakened in time. Mengzi glanced over and found that there was a figure among the crowd, and the situation was not right. This person was Bai Liancheng from the Baiyan family. He was like a sleepwalker at this moment, leaning on his body. A humanoid puppet appeared in front of him, and the puppet kept shaking with him, and a faint light kept shining on the wooden body. Bai Liancheng was carving something on his own puppet, and he closed his eyes and smiled strangely while carving. The puppet was dismembered under his operation, which was chilling. Bai Liancheng was in miasma. Mengzi's face changed when he saw this, and he moved the chessboard of heaven and earth that had not been retracted and sent it towards Bai Liancheng. However, when approaching, the opponent's incomplete puppet suddenly became agitated, constantly interfering with the rescue and disrupting Mengzi's arrangement. He wanted to save people instead of hurting them, and it was not easy to use powerful Taoist magic. Therefore, they were stuck there. "Brother Yan, please act quickly." Mengzi saw that he could not cope with it, so he called out. Yan Lingyu's attack came the moment he opened his mouth. Bai Liancheng still owed the Yan family a puppet, and it was impossible to let the other party be trapped and unable to wake up. Yan Lingyu directly swung out the Hengshui Yin Lei, trying to disperse the opponent's unconsciously controlled puppet. But the inscriptions that lit up on the puppet blocked his attack. This inscription actually has the charm of the talisman array. I don't know if it was a reward from the first and second levels of Baiyancheng, or it was comprehended in the final inheritance. Anyway, it's tricky. The opponent is not only threatening himself, but also other cultivators around who have realized the Tao. The situation is critical. Yan Lingyu and Mengzi looked at each other and exerted their full strength together. The former's Hengshui spirit body and spirit body source flow opened at the same time, and the magic power was continuously infused into the Hengshui yin lei, making the black liquid thicker and deeper. Mengzi summoned another chessboard, and the chess pieces on it actually had the meaning of the heavenly way. The rolling spiritual pressure swept over, causing Yan Lingyu beside him to look sideways frequently. With the exquisite cooperation of the two, the puppet was also completely dispersed, and Mengzi's method could finally work on the real owner. As for how Bai Lian Cheng will feel when he wakes up and sees the broken natal puppet, he will know how to adjust himself. By then, Yan Meng and the others will charge him for his actions. Ding, ding, ding. Similarly, several chess pieces hit Bai Lian Cheng's tendons and paralyzed him. But he still didn't wake up. There was infinite ray in his open eyes. He was too deep and couldn't be awakened. The puppet is originally a combination of refining equipment and formation. And this talisman formation is too important for refining puppets. It can greatly improve the combat capability of puppets, which is something that the Bai Lian family cannot refuse. This may be the reason why Bai Lian Cheng fails so quickly. Seeing this, Yan Lingyu sighed, of course not for Bai Lian Cheng, but for the puppets of the Bai Lian family. If a puppet is placed in the family to protect the clan members, this is naturally great. Yan Lingyu, who has no hope of building a foundation in low strength, but is a master of alchemy, needs this kind of protection. But it's a pity now. At the same time, Yan Lingyu looked at Yan Lingyu, and he was worried. While thinking, he suddenly found that Yan Lingyu's beautiful eyes trembled slightly and her body shook. Because of the two people's experience, he thought she was also lost, and he was shocked. He moved the Hengshui yin lei wrapped in Zuanshan technique to the woman's side and gently touched her acupuncture points. Yan Lingyu woke up, with only a reassuring clarity in her eyes. At the same time, there was an irrepressible smile on her pretty face. Ninth brother, I succeeded, a voice transmission exploded in Yan Lingyu's heart. The latter didn't have time to think about it, and patted Yan Lingyu several times without making a sound. Yan Lingyu was in pain and looked bitter. Then, Yan Lingyu stepped forward, helped her up, and said with concern, Seventh sister, are you okay? The inheritance has failed, so it's best to save your life. At this time, Mengzi and Keihu also cast their eyes on the Yan siblings. Yan Lingyu then transmitted the message, Seventh sister, quickly imagine the saddest thing in your heart, don't let others see the flaws, and talk about other things when you return to the clan. So, Yan Lingyu began to maintain her expression with difficulty. After a while, seeing that the people from the Five Sons sect did not show any abnormality, Yan Lingyu clasped his fists and said to Mengzi, Brother Meng, this matter is over, and we should leave. Brother Yan, see you later, Mengzi said. He did not plan to leave immediately. After all, there were still fellow disciples who were in the process of understanding, and one of them seemed to have gained something. See you later. Yan Lingyu turned around and took the sister of the clan to a teleportation array deep in the hall. This is the exit. After a burst of illusory light, the Yan brothers and sisters fell into a dense forest, which should be somewhere in the 10,000 mountains. Because of the night, the surroundings were extremely dark, and there were fierce beasts roaring. The two became alert, using the stars in the sky as a reference, found a direction, and moved forward with the support of the ground. Perhaps it was the blessing of heaven that although there were a few first and second level monsters during the period, they were able to deal with them. At the same time, the Yan family siblings also encountered the Dacian Imperial Guards who came here to investigate. The two disguised themselves as young monks who went out for training and followed the Imperial Guards back to Dacian. After an unknown period of time, they were finally able to go home. Chapter 75, The Current Situation of the Yan Family, Lingyu's Doubts. Keishuling, Yan Family. 2.5 months have passed since Yan Lingyu entered the Void Gap, and the Yan family has been waiting for his return while improving the family foundation. When the spiritual vein was obtained, the Yan family spent silver to buy the entire Keishuling. Keishuling has completely changed. The main peak of this ridge is called Keishu Peak, which is also the location of the Yan family's main home. After renovation, a grand house was built at an altitude of 100 feet at Keishu Peak, and a cave was built above it so that the clan members who wanted to retreat would never be disturbed again. At the same time, a small artificial stream fell from the top of the mountain and flowed through the center of the ancestral home, so that it was convenient for low-level clan members to get water for use. With the help of the formation master Kinran, several sets of large-scale defensive formations were placed in the ancestral home area. Although the grade of each set is not high, they can be combined to emit the power of a high-level Zhuan level formation. Even if a cultivator in the late stage of foundation building came, he could not penetrate the defense. Qin Ran really worked hard, and even if Yan Lingyu came back, he would not say much. On the left side of the main peak, Hengshui Peak, there was originally a forest swamp, but now it has been reclaimed by the Yan family into a spiritual field. The last season of spiritual plants have been planted. After watering, there will be a bumper harvest next year. Although the Yan family has spiritual mines as a guarantee, it is naturally great to earn more spiritual stones. In front of Hengshui Peak is a flat piece of land. After the stones are piled up and the formation is reinforced, it has become a martial arts training ground. The monks of the Yan family can practice their own Taoism or sacrifice magic tools here. There is enough space here. Unlike in Beatty City, they have to practice in their own yards, worrying about damaging the housework and not being able to use their hands and feet. On the back hillside of Hengshui Peak, there are several wooden buildings that are still under construction. They are the Yan family's future library and alchemy pavilion. Now it has also reached the final stage of layout. When it is completely repaired, all kinds of objects can be moved from the old house. And on the periphery of Hengshui Ridge, the Yan family is also deliberately gathering villages. With the Yan family behind the village, it will develop into a large-scale county town within a few decades. At that time, the Yan family can open a market in it to earn more profits and increase the family's control over Yingzhou. Moving the core of Yingzhou to Hengshui will enable better development. A small peak behind Hengshui Peak. This is the newly built ancestral hall of the Yan family. The spirit tablets and life soul lamps of the Yan family members have been moved to it. It's just that the immortal bodies of the deceased family members cannot be moved and remain near Beatty City. At this time, in the ancestral hall, a young and beautiful woman was practicing meditation. She was Qin Hainer. She was still waiting for Yan Lingyu to come back here. Now, she has completely accepted her love for each other, so she's a lot more free and easy, and often goes out to help the Yan family build their homes, treating herself as a member of the Yan family. Qin Hainer has come out of the predicament, because Yan Lingyu's life soul lamp has been burning, and the fire has been more prosperous recently. It seems that there is no danger to life and it is not far from coming back. Later, Princess Qin and her husband came to see her. Their daughter, who had not been seen for a few days, was in a good mood and in a good mood. Madame Qin also supported her daughter's love. After all, after understanding from many sources, she confirmed that Yan Lingyu was outstanding in appearance, mature and stable, and was very suitable to take care of her daughter. Only Princess Qin secretly hated that a girl should not be kept when she grows up. After 2 months of settling down, Qin Hainer was not far from building her foundation. With the earth-burning fire spirit in her hand, when she was building her foundation, she could get a little bit of it and leave a mark. In this way, her future path to the golden core would be much smoother. What if Yan Lingyu doesn't like me? Qin Hainer murmured while meditating. This question has been lingering in her mind, making her panic from time to time. And as the days passed, the pressure became stronger. No matter what, a girl chasing a boy, there is a layer of gauze between them. This princess took the initiative to make a move. How dare Yan Lingyu disobey me? He has to take the responsibility for that kick. Qin Hainer was eager to move, and her pretty face turned slightly red. Suddenly, she found that the flame of Yan Lingyu's soul lamp on the table was getting better and better, which indicated that Yan Lingyu was nearby and he had returned. Lingyu, Qin Hainer shouted in surprise, and quickly stood up and flew out of the door to look for the figure that haunted her. Yan Lingyu and Yan Lingyu followed the Dacian army into the territory of Dacian. Then, they went to a merchant group and slowly returned to Xiaonan County. They chose to go straight to Hengshui. On the way, Yan Lingyu also told her sister about the battle between Yan and Zhang. But when she learned that the head of the family and the third master had died, Yan Lingyu also burst into tears, with a trace of self-blame and anger towards the Zhang family in her heart. She swore that when she became stronger, she would definitely ask her clan members to settle the account. Soon, the two came to the outside of Hengshui. Seventh sister. Ninth brother. The first person to discover the two of them was Yan Lingzhang, who had just returned from protecting the goods. Seeing Yan Lingyu safe, he was naturally in a good mood. The stone hanging in his heart fell, and he kept asking what happened. As the three walked, Yan Lingzhang introduced the family situation. Yan Lingyu, who learned that the family was thriving, also smiled, thinking that all the efforts and risks were really not in vain. Not bad, ninth brother, you went into the time and space gap and got the little princess. You usually look dull and stupid, but I didn't expect that your kung fu is better than Uncle Yinglian. The little princess is like a lost soul without you. When will you teach me? I also want to find a good partner. When they arrived at the gate of Keishuling, Yan Lingyu slapped his head and said happily. The other party's words made Yan Lingyu a little stunned, and for a moment he didn't know what the other party meant. The little princess likes me? Did I kick her silly at the beginning? Or is she waiting to retaliate against me secretly? Yan Lingyu didn't believe what the third brother said. Yan Lingyu saw Yan Lingyu's doubts. The latter suddenly looked serious. Ninth brother, what do you mean? A real man should dare to act and take responsibility. We can all see that Einer's sister-in-law is sincere to you. This month, she has also worked hard for the construction of the Yan family. You can't let her down. Yes, ninth brother, you can't let her down, otherwise, the seventh sister, will be rude to you first. Yan Lingyu on the side also lectured, although she didn't know what happened. But the word sister-in-law sounded kind, and seeing the way the third brother defended his sister-in-law, you knew that the other party must be a good girl. Women are born to stand on the side of women. What is this all about? Yan Lingyu scratched his head and decided to go back and ask Qin Hainer clearly. You Yan Fengliu, you really don't admit it, right? Third brother, listen to me, the situation was not what you thought. What's the matter? Ninth brother, you haven't already done something to that girl, have you? No, there is a problem with chapter 72, and it has not been uploaded. I just discovered it, and I will make up for it later. I am very sorry for affecting the reading of all readers. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone, see you in the next video.